My psycho coworker has been following me around and taking video of me, all in some crazy effort to try and prove that I'm not actually disabled. But despite the fact that I struggle with chronic pain on a daily basis and even use a cane to walk around, my coworker is convinced that I'm faking it and that I'm doing this just to get out of doing certain jobs at work, putting me in a really awkward situation because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that this is really weird, so I need to know if I'm crazy for going as far as I did. For starters, I have a condition of chronic pain. The way I explain it to people without chronic pain is that if pain were on levels from like 1 to 10, normal people reach up to like a 3 from their day-to-day activities, whereas people with chronic pain are rated more at like a 6. Like imagine stepping on a Lego or hitting your funny bone, but instead of it being mild, it's a very brief but excruciating 8. It's like if you pulled a muscle, so there's literally pain and discomfort if you move it, but pretty much daily. Some days I'm higher up on the scale, but on some rare blessed days I'm at a lower rating by some miracle. But overall, I'm active and I operate well. I do own a cane that I can use, but I only use them when it's really bad, and such a day came this past Sunday. On top of my full-time job, I have a part-time job, and due to being physically and legally disabled, I had all the paperwork already filed with my job in case I ever needed accommodations. I have a handicap marker on my license plate, as well as the placard on my rearview mirror, as well as pretty much anything else I would need. I was recently moved to a location closer to my home, and you know what? I love my new team. My boss, who I will call Amy, is great, and my colleague, who I will call Casey, gets along with me okay, but we are the same position as assistant coordinators to Amy. The reason I was moved to that location was that it expanded and they needed more hands, so they added me in. Casey has wanted a promotion for a long time, and everybody knows it. And you know what? I was pretty open that I didn't want something like that. Any promotion from my position would be a full-time endeavor, and I already have a full-time job. I do this job simply to pad my savings and because I frankly like the job. Being busy also helps with my anxiety. I mean, Casey works hard, but she also likes to talk over me or rush to take charge of something before I can when I clearly was getting to it. Then she'll announce, "Oh, I handled it for you, don't worry about it." And at first I was annoyed, but over time I was like, alright then, but you didn't have to do it, so whatever. Eventually though, I talked to Amy about this. I want to pull my own weight, but it can be challenging and redundant when Casey is racing to beat me to it. The point was for us to split tasks evenly. Amy said she would talk to her, and I don't really know what came of that, but things didn't really change much, so I just accepted it. So when I came in on Monday with my cane, everyone had questions. I emailed Amy Sunday night so that she would know what was going on, but I tend to be a private person. So what I told everyone else was that I have a condition, and sometimes I need a cane, but not always. Well, Amy accommodated me no problem. She assigned me tasks that required little to no movement, and I was very grateful and got everything done pretty early, so I called over the radio if there was anything else I could do. Casey said no, she's got it, so I just handled administrative stuff that's usually on the back burner. I literally replied by saying, okay, I'll tackle the administration list then, but then Casey tried to say no, she's got it, but then Amy followed that with a thank you to me and confirmation that this would be helpful. Now, I still needed my cane yesterday, and it was a similar situation. I completed most of the to-do list for the administration, and Amy was so relieved to have it done. She thanked me for coming in and doing all that instead of calling out. Casey then made a comment saying, oh, well, I could have helped, but I said, oh, that's okay, and then I thanked her for handling the more physical jobs. We ended up walking to the parking lot together, and she went to me and asked me which car was mine, to which I pointed over and showed her my car. She then said to me something that absolutely blew my mind. She looked at me and said, so I know you're not disabled, by the way. And when I asked her what she meant, she just repeated herself and said, so no cane tomorrow, okay? I won't tell, just don't have a cane tomorrow. And when she said this, I was quite literally shocked. I stood there thinking to myself, what is going on? But I was also meeting my best friend and decided just to leave to make it on time. So I met up with my best friend, who I will call Joy, at the bar, and we had a wonderful time. I brought my cane, but to be completely honest, I didn't always use it. For example, I didn't use it to walk from my table to the bar to request another drink, or when I got up to hug Joy goodbye. Well, today when I woke up, my pain was higher than normal, so I took my cane along with me to work. I texted Amy that I have my cane, but I'm doing okay in small bursts, so please put me in, coach. I was having a good time at my main job, and I didn't really give Casey another thought. Then I arrive at my part-time job, and Casey saw my cane and went red. I mean, she looked the same way that I looked when the Eagles lost to the 49ers, just super mad at me. I greeted everybody, but she just completely ignored me. We got our assignments, and she snidely said to me, well, can you handle that with your cane and all that other stuff? And she said it in a way that made Amy turn to look at her like, what are you doing? I then said I can manage it, and I thanked her for her concern, and we just went about our work. Well, once again, again, she raced around to beat me to things, saying over the radio, "Oh, don't strain yourself. Don't worry, I took care of the job for you." Now, I was so confused until about an hour ago when we finished work and she again walked with me to the parking lot. But this time she showed me a video. And yeah, the video was of me at the bar last night with Joy. And I was just like, wait a second, why do you have a video of me? That is weird. She then looked at me and said, "It's proof." When I asked her what it was proof of, she said to me, "Well, this is proof that you're not disabled and that you can stop acting so wounded all day at work. You know, because suddenly you don't need your cane at the bar." And when she said this, I thought to myself, what are you talking about? I wanted to explain that that is just how chronic pain works. Like, yes, I can stand up to hug my friend or get up and walk like 3 strides to order a new drink, but I can't, for example, lean over and organize a bottom drawer without a chair to sit in. I wanted to explain that chronic pain is just an umbrella, and under it are a myriad of experiences and abilities that, honestly, if she had left my tasks alone, I would have done them. She didn't give me the chance to explain, but instead said, "No cane tomorrow, I'm serious, or I'm gonna be going straight to Chad." And for reference, Chad is gonna be the name of Amy's boss. I then said to her, "Okay, well, about what?" But she was already walking away from me and just got in her car. And oddly, Chad would know that this is complete BS because his boyfriend also has chronic pain. I'm not so much worried about being found out or anything like that, but it's just weird. I'm also literally typing an email to Amy while also forwarding this to Chad about this weird behavior because I really find this odd. So seriously, am I crazy to want to preemptively explain this? I'm an anxious person and I'm paranoid in general, so I don't want to overreact or make things worse in some kind of way. What should I do? Okay, holy crap, your coworker is crazy. Who in their right mind is gonna sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna prove that you're not disabled," and then they follow you to the bar after work? Like, what is going on right now, man? Are they like some private investigator? Because this is some creepy behavior, dude. There's no excuse for this. I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would come ready with receipts and every single ounce of paperwork I can find on this, and I would be reporting Casey to human resources or my manager or someone. Like, this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I need to scream this from the rooftops that this crazy lady's treating me like this, and I am not okay with it. And to the original poster, you should not be okay with this either. So I think overall, the fact that you're trying to like get an email out to your boss and your boss's boss about this crazy behavior, that in my opinion is a smart move and exactly what you need to do. Because Casey's being unreasonable and honestly a little discriminatory, and that is not okay and that absolutely needs to be corrected. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for banning my family friend and her son from my house, all because she refuses to repair and pay for the damages that her kid caused when they came to my house the other day? Because right now I'm still pissed off about it, but I don't know if I'm overreacting. And at this point, I don't really know what to do. Here's how it all started. Okay, so last year, I finally got the final addition to a collection I had started, and it's in a display cabinet that can only be opened with a key that I have stored in a secret place. Well, my family friend's 7-year-old son walked into the room where the cabinet is, and I politely told him, "Please do not touch it." Well, twice I caught him touching it, and I told him to stop, but all he did was smile. Plus, his mother didn't do anything to stop him. I then politely told her to tell her son to stop, and she just said to me, "Isn't it locked? He won't get into that. Stop being so paranoid." But the third time, he grabs a chair and he has a metal fork in his hand, which he tries poking the lock with, but I caught him in the act. When I did, this startled him, causing the chair to fall forward, breaking some of the glass of the display cabinet, but luckily nothing was damaged. His father then marched over, having been there when I gave the second warning, and takes his son into the other room. I inspect the lock and it wasn't damaged either, but eventually the father and son return with the kid, confessing that his older brother told him to use the fork to pick the lock, so now 2 of the kids are in trouble. I then look at my family friend saying that she has to pay for the repairs. And you know what she says to me? She says, "Well, you shouldn't have such cool collectibles to entice him." I then told her, "Okay, I want you out of my house until you pay for the damages your son did." She then says that she has nothing to pay for, and then leaves with her husband and 4 kids. Eventually, I got a friend who's good at repairing this kind of thing take care of it, where they essentially came in and repaired all the damage that this kid had caused. But regardless, am I the jerk for banning them from my home, all because this family friend refused to pay to repair the damage their kid caused? What should I do? Okay, no, you're not the jerk here. I would have done the exact same thing. If I have something valuable that's locked up in a cabinet, then guess what? I don't want you touching it. I don't want anyone going in there. There's a lock on it for a reason. Please stop trying to break into it. So the fact that this kid not only tried to pick the lock, but also broke the glass that was displaying it, that for me is more than enough reason for these people to not be welcome back in my home. And guess what? It's your home. If you want to display these collectible things, then you have every right to do so. It is completely insane for her to be like, oh, this is actually your fault that he broke it. But it's like, no, it's your fault for not watching your kid, and instead just allow this stupid brat to walk around and break stuff. So no, you're not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Did I overreact by doing a chargeback on my subscription to have my nails done? All because the technician I scheduled with constantly has canceled on me over and over again. Because after the fact, I'm honestly starting to second guess my decision. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've gotten my nails done by one technician for over a year. I'm very particular about my nails, and she's really good at it, and she's fast. But here's the problem. She is always late or canceling on me at the last minute. But again, I needed her more than she needed me. So with that, I've never really complained to her. I've never been late or canceled on her last minute. In fact, I've sat in my car waiting for over an hour before when she's literally running behind, because I like the way she does my nails, and I paid for a monthly subscription that she offers. It's 2 sets a month for $275, and I've been on this subscription plan for a little over 6 months. But every single visit, she's late. And I should also mention that I still tip her every single visit. Well, it's 2026 now, and I'm trying to set boundaries. I had an appointment on January 9th, and I asked if she had anything sooner. She then offered me January 3rd. Well, the day comes around, and an hour before I'm supposed to be there, she said that she got home from Vegas late and asked if I can change my morning appointment to 4 p.m. And to that, I said fine. Again, I didn't complain. But then at about 3 o'clock, she texts me and asked if I could just keep my original appointment on the 9th. And while I'm already annoyed, I still agreed to it. She scheduled me for the 9th, but at a different time than what I had originally had. So I asked her if I can keep my original day and time since I have work, but I got no response in return. Well, on January 8th, I text her and I ask her again, what time should I be there? She then responds 2 hours later and says that since I was the only one scheduled for the 9th, she's canceling my appointment and I have to reschedule for the 10th. I then asked her what time, and again, I got no response for hours. Finally, I just scheduled through her online portal, and I scheduled for 10 o'clock in the morning on the 10th. Well, it's now January 10th, and I get a text message at 9:30, and she says she has a family emergency and she's canceling all appointments. She then said she's going to reschedule everyone for the weekend of the 16th. Well, today's the 16th, and I had an appointment scheduled for 6 o'clock in the morning just so I can go to work. I'm there before she got there, so I texted her, but I got no response. I then texted her one more time at 6:45, but again, she did not respond at all. But once 7:15 in the morning rolled around, I just left. I then did a chargeback for the monthly membership for this month, since I have yet to receive any services, and I canceled my auto renewal. Finally, she texted me at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours after my scheduled appointment time, and said, oh, I'm so sorry, and came up with all these other excuses. But you know what? I'm over it at this point. So am I overreacting by canceling my subscription and doing this chargeback? Because at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Oh my gosh, this was exhausting to read. Are you kidding me right now? This lady is the flakiest person on planet Earth. First of all, I don't know about anyone else, but that is a lot of money to have your nails done. Holy crap, that is just way too much for me to ever justify, let alone having some kind of monthly subscription. But if that's the case, if I am paying for that kind of service, even though I think that's completely ridiculous, the person doing the nails better be on time just as much as I am, because this person is not doing that. They're canceling last minute, they're always having some kind of excuse as to why they don't want to do their job, and that is horrifying. Seriously, it seems like you're getting played and you're getting scammed out of your money. So no, you did not overreact. This was the only correct decision to make here, because you are wasting your money on this lady, and I guarantee you can absolutely find someone way better than this person. Am I the jerk for not refunding a buyer after they started to escalate publicly, trashing my name and my business, all because the costume they purchased wasn't exactly what they wanted? Because right now I'm under a lot of stress and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. For a bit of context, I'm a costume maker and a seller with years of experience repairing and restoring custom pieces. This situation involved a highly sought after personal costume that I sold during a financial emergency after a brutal year of health and travel issues. The buyer itself has a large social social media following and made the purchase very public from the start, posting videos about offering on their dream costume, which brought a lot of outside pressure. We accepted their offer below asking price and closed the listing early because they agreed to handle cleaning and agreed alterations themselves and wanted it quickly. They also requested we avoid detergents due to sensitivities and said they would clean it more thoroughly once it arrived. Well, I cleaned the costume using a machine cleaner with water only, and I documented it on video. The costume arrived on Christmas Day, and within 24 hours, the buyer dismantled it before contacting me. At that time, we had come down with chickenpox, including respiratory problems. I repeatedly asked for space and time to recover, and later asked to focus only on work while stabilizing. But obviously, those boundaries were not respected, and this isn't something that we would lie about. We recovered, but the scars are still there. From the start, the buyer's messages were aggressive and included accusations that we intentionally lied or edited the listing photos. But that is simply not true. My roommate has photography training. The photos were taken with proper lighting and a reflective backdrop, and the costume was cleaned regularly and in good condition. When I was able to respond, I apologized for rushed communication and I tried to resolve things. The buyer said the repairs were more extensive than expected and claimed the costume smelled bad or had stains on it, things I couldn't even confirm after it already had been dismantled. Instead of returning the costume, they demanded a refund. They filed a payment dispute, implied that they could damage any business publicly, and offered to keep things private only if refunded significantly more. Well, given how online call-out culture works in this space, the escalation felt extreme. I'm now letting PayPal handle things, as I have a terms of service set in place either way that states more or less there are no refunds and only returns and lifetime repairs. I'm hesitant to even post this on my main account, but I am keeping this vague and posting on an old account since I don't want this situation turned into more stress. I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. I feel conflicted because I genuinely regret selling this piece in the first place, and I wish I had personally handled all communication instead of letting things move so quickly. So am I the jerk for refusing to refund after the costume was basically dismantled and after the situation escalated in the way that it has? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, first and foremost, I am so sorry you're dealing with this. Like, I can only imagine how much pressure you're probably under regarding like this person who's clearly treating you like crap, even though it sounds like you did everything they asked for. You explained to them and they agreed that yeah, they'll handle any like repairs and cleaning or any like alterations themselves. And that was pretty much the end of it because before you know it, they're getting it on Christmas Day. So the fact that they're like turning around and being like, wow, these people screwed us over. I can't believe they did this wrong. Despite the fact that from the sounds of it, you did everything right. Like, that is incredibly disrespectful and not fair. And personally, like in my opinion, I completely understand why you're like, sorry, but there's no refunds. Because if this is like a costume they're wearing for an event, they could just wear it for one day and then return it and get their money back. And that doesn't seem very fair for the person that's selling the costume or the piece that they're wearing. So in my opinion, it makes sense. Like, sorry, you can't refund it, but we will repair it if you want us to. So I don't think you're the jerk. I think what you're doing does make sense in my opinion. And that's strictly from the standpoint of like, hey, these are my terms of service. I'm sorry, but I cannot give you a refund. But I will say the added pressure from the outside looking in from these people, like basically blasting you online, like that is uncalled for and completely unacceptable because it really seems unnecessary. And if anything, it's just making matters worse. My neighbor really tried to tell me that I'm stunting her children's development, all because I wouldn't let them use my backyard as a shortcut to the park. Because right now, my neighbor is acting so unhinged that I'm honestly not sure what to do next. Because this lady is literally the most entitled person I've met in a very long time. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I bought my first house about 6 months ago. It was a nice fenced-in backyard that happens to back up to a local wooded trail that leads to a popular park. If you go around the block, it's a 10-minute walk. But if you go through my yard, it's about 30 seconds. And it's right about here that someone I will call Linda comes into the story. Linda lives 2 houses down and has 3 kids all under 10 years old. And a few weeks after I moved in, I caught Linda and her kids unlatching my side gate and walking through my yard. I then went out and politely told her that I prefer that they didn't do that, citing liability and the fact that I have a dog who isn't always fond of strangers in his space. Now, what was Linda's response, you might be wondering? Well, she said to me, "Oh, the previous owners always let us. It's just easier for the kids." But I told her that I'm not the previous owner and to please use the sidewalk. Now, I thought that was the end of it, but yesterday I came home early and I found her kids climbing over my fence. Not even using the gate, literally just climbing up over it. And so I told them to get down and go home. 5 minutes later, Linda's at my front door absolutely livid. She didn't apologize, but instead she screamed that I was being unneighborly and that I was being hostile towards children. She literally told me that by forcing them to walk the long way, I'm stunting their development and I'm robbing them of outdoor time. She then demanded demanded that I give her a copy of the key to my gate so that she can supervise them properly while they use the shortcut. But that's when I told her that if I see her or her kids in my yard again, I'm calling the police for trespassing and I'll be installing cameras. She then called me a bitter, child-hating hermit and then stomped off. But now, a couple of other neighbors who I think just don't want to deal with her are telling me that I'm being too intense and that it's just a yard. They say that I should just let them use it to keep the neighborhood harmonious. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, I'm genuinely shocked that someone thinks they have a right to my property just because it's more convenient. Because right now I'm at a loss and I just don't know what to do. No, you're not overreacting and you're definitely not the jerk here. Because you're right, man. These people have no business being on your property. Especially when you have a dog who's like, oh, I'm gonna bite the first person I see in this backyard space. And with them opening up the gate, like your dog could get out and then who knows what'll happen. Like those kids could run through your backyard, trip and roll their ankle, and then congratulations, you've got a lawsuit. And based on the way you're describing Linda, I would not doubt that that absolutely could happen. So in my opinion, I think you made the right choice because this Linda lady seems like she would try to pull something like that in the future. And I think by telling them to take a hike, you're absolutely protecting yourself in the future. My toxic ex-boyfriend treated me like garbage and told me that nobody would ever believe me when I explained what he did to me. But after he gave me an open, cocky invitation to try and expose him to the world, I decided to get revenge and do exactly that. And as a result, I have completely tanked his career and his home life and prevented him from getting countless jobs after I spilled the tea on literally everything he's ever done. And I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So I'm a 39-year-old female, and 8 years ago, I was dumped by my ex-boyfriend. I'm usually on good terms with my exes, but that one was a piece of work. He body shamed me, he forced me to do things that I hated, and he cheated for half a year, not wanting to break up until we go on 2 trips paid by me. He made a point of telling me in which ways his new girlfriend is better, smarter, and thinner than me. It was so bad, I ended up in a mental ward. Oh, and he told me that no one would ever believe me anyways, and that nobody cares about how he treats women. So I'm free to complain about it online if I want. So eventually I got better, I calmed down, and then I started complaining. I ended up writing a "don't hire that one" post online. He has an extremely rare surname, and it's one of those that's either his or it's like a famous athlete's last name, so this honestly helped a lot. I wrote how he can't keep a job for more than half a year because he thinks he's smarter than anyone, and he argues instead of doing what needs to be done. I stated that his references are fake because these are his friends' contacts and not his employers. I also stated how he has a billion courses on his resume just to wear the reader out. For the record, his resume is literally 30 pages long. Like nobody's got time for any of that. And that he did this so that they won't catch on to how little experience he actually has. I also said that he's sure that sleeping with a business contact could be helpful for the business itself, and that women sometimes need to be beaten up to see the light. Now, all of this, by the way, is very true. I had screenshots of chats to prove it. And as far as I'm concerned, my ex-boyfriend didn't say anything about not talking about his professional life. That was absolutely not specified. Now, I am moderately popular at social media, so a month or so later, an HR director contacted me to clarify the things that I posted, because apparently he applied for a position. Well, as you can probably imagine, I saw to it and he didn't get the job. And this happened twice more. But I suppose a lot more HRs are checking social media just to read my posts silently. I check on him once every 2 years or so, and right now he has no career, no family, and his girlfriends are apparently way smarter than me, and they run away screaming after half a year tops. So I suppose that someone did believe me after all. As for me, I am happily married to a great guy, and in my profession, I am a bit famous. So eventually, it all worked out for me in the end. Yeah, your ex-boyfriend made a calculated mistake. He didn't realize that you were going to go after his career as much as you were going to go after his personal life. Not even mentioning the receipts and screenshots that you have at your disposal. Like, this guy sounds like a piece of work. It's very clear that he's the problem in pretty much anything he does, and that he has no right treating people in the way that he does. And this situation is like beautiful karma. This is the kind of karma you dream of and you hope comes your way, because people like this absolutely deserve to have their sins literally like broadcast to the universe. So in my opinion, good for you for standing up for yourself and exposing your ex for the jerk that they are. Because in my opinion, this guy absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not taking any responsibility for the reaction my sister got when reaching out to our birth family? Because because as of right now, our birth family doesn't want any contact from my sister, and she is now trying to blame me for this not working out, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister and I are both adopted and from the same birth family. We were both adopted as infants, and our birth parents asked if they would adopt me since they adopted my sister. My parents said yes, and so my sister and I were raised together by the same family. Our lives were happy though, but we did have one big difference. She always longed to meet and know about our blood family, but I never wanted that. I don't consider them my family or my parents really. To me, my family is the people that I love and the people that I grew up with. There was never the same curiosity that my sister had or the same drive to want to find them in the future. Our parents knew their names and gave us that information, but I didn't want to track them down with my sister. She did ask, but I wasn't into the idea. My sister started to search for our birth family, and she opened herself to search for any relative. She found out our birth parents were still very close to their families, and she reached out to a bunch of people about wanting to meet. They didn't respond for months, and then she was asked by our birth father and one of our birth aunts if it was the two of us searching or just her. Well, she got no reply again for several months after saying it was just her, and then, one by one, she got replies from everyone stating they were not interested and that they did not want to be contacted again. My sister tried with a few that she did not reach out to the first time, and she got the same response. After she took some time to process all of this, she then started to blame me for their rejection. She said the fact that they asked about me showed that they wanted the both of us, and they were probably afraid of dividing us, so they rejected her, and she also said that I care so little about the people who brought us into the world, claiming that I don't care about the blood ties that we have out there. I told her it was not something I cared that deeply about. I told her that I was more concerned with being a good dad and partner than in finding strangers and trying to reconnect with them. I told her that our parents and her were my family. My girlfriend and my son are my family. Our grandparents and extended family are my family, and I don't need or crave anybody else. She told me I should take responsibility, but I told her it's not my job to do so. I also said they might have had other reasons, and they may have asked about me for any number of reasons. She said that I have to know that us both going might have gotten a different answer, and that haunts her. Things are very strained right now, and she seems to be hurting more because I don't take any responsibility. I have many thoughts on the rejection, and none of them involve me taking any of the blame. But with all that in mind, I do still feel really bad about my sister. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Okay, first off, I want to say that I also feel bad about your sister. She clearly has been looking forward to this her entire life, but now that she got rejected, she honestly seems really crushed. And that is seriously unfortunate, and I'm so sorry she's dealing with that. Like, I can only imagine going through that kind of work to find these people in the first place, just to be turned down all because your brother isn't also involved in this process. But more on that point, in my opinion, it is incredibly toxic for her to turn this around and be like, wait a second, this is your fault. You need to take the blame for this not working out. But it's like, wait a second, how is this the original poster's fault? They literally decided to stay out of this situation entirely because they see these people in a much different light than your sister. It's not like you went out of your way to sabotage this situation, because in my opinion, you've got it right. They could have turned her down for literally any reason at all. And I hardly believe that it's because you weren't there involved in this process. That seems like a bit of a stretch, and it's really rude for her to make that kind of equivalent assumption. And I totally get that she's hurting, and this is probably a defensive reaction in some kind of way, but she is seriously focusing her anger and her grief about the situation at the wrong person. She really shouldn't be mad at you for not wanting to be involved in looking for these people, but instead, she really should be upset that these people don't want to meet with her. That's the real tragedy here, and honestly, in that regard, I really do feel bad for the sister. But in my opinion, with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk, and I don't think it's right for your sister to demand that you take the blame, because in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong. Am I the jerk for being too honest about why I will never consider my dad's wife an equal parent or even a second mom in my life? Because right now, my dad and his wife are incredibly angry with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents were 19 years old when they had me. They were together until I was about 1 year old, and then they broke up. They didn't get married, so there was no divorce or anything like that. I also have my mom's last name, and that does come up later, which is why I'm saying it here. My dad met his wife Carol, that's not her real name, when I was about 5 or 6. I met her when I was 6 years old, and she was married to him when I was 7. They also had 4 kids in 4 years, starting a few months after the wedding. And this is because Carol is older than my dad and felt her biological clock clock was ticking. It was all very fast for me. My relationship with Carol is not very close at all. She has made a lot of efforts to take the role of a third parent as well as a second mom, but I always keep her as just my dad's wife or as someone who's part of the wider family, but is not exactly someone important to me. Now, I have a few reasons for this. She never lets me call her Carol, and she pushed for me to say mom years ago, and we ended up both settling for ma'am since first names are a no-no. She is also very pushy with her religion and has called me disrespectful for not giving her religion a chance and not attending unless I'm forced to. I don't believe in religion, and I was mostly raised without it. My dad converted for her, but my mom said no to me doing it, and I'm honestly so glad of that. Carol also acts like we had years to get to know each other before she became my dad's wife, but in reality, it was maybe about a year. The other thing is that she hates my mom and is not afraid to voice that stuff around me. Carol hates that I have my mom's last name and not my dad's, and Carol hates the first name that my mom chose for me and has implied that she was selfish for giving it to me because it's more unique and uncommon and not a normal name. She has called my mom horrible things, such as a disgrace of a parent, as well as trailer trash, and she feels that dad should have named me as his first son. Then she also blames mom for not encouraging me to use my middle name, which my dad chose, and it's more of a name that Carol likes. She also disagreed with mom not putting me in sports when I was a lot younger, and this is because Carol is big into boys needing sports from a young age, and my mom never considered that a priority. She is just so disrespectful about my mom so often. A couple of years ago, while I was at my dad's, Carol and I were alone, and she wanted to know why I never treat her like a parent, and what she's done so wrong that I refuse to acknowledge her as any kind of mom to me. Well, I then mentioned all of the things I just listed, and how much I hate when she gets like that. I told her she can't expect to win me over when she talks all this garbage about my mom all the time and disrespects me by disrespecting my name. I told her that I would never love someone who acts that way. Well, when I said that, she was hurt. I could tell right away. But she was also angry, and so was my dad when she told him what I said. They accused me of treating Carol with so much disrespect and harshness, and at this point, it's honestly making me question if I'm the jerk or not. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Carol is literally digging her own grave, and then she's expecting you to somehow be okay with the way she talks about your mother. Like, first of all, if she has like all those ill feelings towards your mom, then she really needs to manage how she expresses that and who she says that to in the first place. Like, it is highly inappropriate for her to say that around you. Like, you very clearly love your mom, and you probably just want everybody to get along. But here comes Carol, your stepmother, stepping in between you and literally everything that you know and love, and basically treating you like garbage. And that, in my opinion, is not fair in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I personally feel like Carol's attitude has gone unchecked for long enough, and it's such a shame that you had to be the one to tell her exactly how it is. Am I the jerk for breaking a family tradition by not giving my firstborn son the name William? Because right now, my entire family is angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my family has a tradition going back 6 generations in which the firstborn son is named William. My father and I go by our middle names to avoid confusion, whilst my grandfather is known as Bill. It's not that I don't like the tradition, it's just that my middle name James is the name I've always been known as, and I always hated being made fun of when I was younger, especially at school when a new teacher would inevitably call out my actual first name when taking the register, and all of the other kids would laugh at me for trying to explain that I didn't want to be called that. Now that I'm an adult, I know that if I wanted to, I could legally change my name, but I guess I've just gotten used to the inconvenience, and at this stage of my life, it's more of a conversation starter if anything else. I also understand that of all the things to be made fun of when younger, it's pretty low down on the list, and some people would just say that I'm being petty. Anyways, I have recently become a father to a beautiful baby boy, and to my family's shock, we have named him Ezra, which both me and my partner love a lot. We're still giving him the middle name of William, but this is not good enough for my family, who have practically not acknowledged my son's name at all. He's 3 months old now, and whenever they interact with him, he's referred to as Junior or the child. All I really want for Ezra is for him to feel like he is his own person when he grows up, to not feel like there's some kind of burden on him to live up to any expectations that we might have for him, which is something I suppose I felt somewhat in my childhood. I want him to feel comfortable knowing that any decision he makes, his mother and I will always support him, and this is what makes me stand by our decision. But I also can't help but feel guilty for breaking the tradition, and that there is now a slight rift between me and my family, especially especially when it comes to my dad. So am I the jerk for not naming my son William? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. You and your wife get to decide what you want to name your son, and honestly, no one else has any say in the matter. It is so disgusting and disrespectful that they would call this kid Junior or the child instead of saying, hey, your name is Ezra. And in my opinion, that is completely unacceptable. There is no good reason for them to do that, and it is incredibly petty for them to act that way. I know that if I was in your shoes, I would be shutting them down so fast it's not even funny. I wouldn't accept any other name or nickname in the slightest, and I would demand that they call my son by his actual name. Because in my opinion, traditions like this are really stupid. It puts pressure on people who never even had a say in the matter, and it basically denies anybody who has a son in the future from having any kind of say in what they want to name their son. So no, you are not the jerk. Your extended family is being really weird, and in my opinion, if they want to be around your son, then they absolutely should use his real name. My family excludes my girlfriend all the time, and it is constantly causing problems in me and my girlfriend's life. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to give you some context, my girlfriend and I have been together for a little more than a year. We see each other 4 to 5 times a week, and I currently still live with my parents to save money, but I hope to move out very soon. My twin sister is living out of town and visits about once a month, and she doesn't like my girlfriend all that much because she thinks that my girlfriend is taking too much of my time and preventing me from spending time with my sister. My family likes to plan things with me, like going to dinner or watching a movie, or whatever the case may be as a family, and when I tell my girlfriend that, she feels left out. I stick up for her when my family wants to do something, and I want to invite her, but they do not want her to be there. They just want me in attendance. My girlfriend doesn't want to be treated as an option on when she can or cannot participate in things with my family. I've tried talking with my parents to be more inclusive, but their argument is that they just want to be together as a family, and that it's nothing personal, but they feel that she is invading our family as they think that she always wants to be involved. We've had this problem for a long time now, and I don't know what to make of it or how to fix it, because I love my family and I want to spend time with them, but I feel they aren't as accepting of my girlfriend. But I also don't want to ditch my family plans as well just to spend time with my girlfriend, because I also want to spend time with my family. Where do I go from here to make all these parties happy? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I think it's really important to see that the girlfriend and the person in this story are 27 and 28 years old. And that's probably like the most jarring thing to me, in my opinion, because the way the original poster is acting is very immature. Now, this isn't meant to be a slight, but in my opinion, if you want your girlfriend to be more involved in your life and in your family's life, then you need to start being more of an advocate for her in all of these situations. Like, it really seems like you're just sitting there and saying, well, okay, my family says I can't have you over, so that's not gonna happen. By the way, I'm gonna go to this family event without you anyways, see you later. Like, no, you gotta stand up for her. You gotta say, listen, if you're not gonna allow my girlfriend to show up as well, then I have no reason to be there myself. Because from the sounds of it, they don't really have a good reason for not wanting your girlfriend there as well. And that's the thing about this situation, you are definitely not gonna make everybody happy. That is impossible, and it is just not gonna happen. So you really need to get that idea out of your head like right away, because somebody is gonna be upset. But in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be sticking up for my girlfriend and saying, listen, you need to include her or I'm not gonna show up. And if they have a negative reaction from this, then fine, they can live with that. Because I know if I was in your shoes and my girlfriend was just begging me to be involved with anything with my family, and my family was still shutting her out and saying, no, we don't want her there, then there is no way I would ever go to these family events, because my family clearly does not respect her or even want to get to know her. And that fact alone is more than enough for me to say that I don't want to be around them. My sister-in-law thinks that I wanted to purposefully outshine her at her wedding, and now she's sending me angry messages, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I first need to start off by saying that I really don't want you to think that I'm bragging, but I have always considered myself physically pretty, and people have always told me that. It has its perks and it has its cons. I had a hard time because of this when I was at school, because let's just say that I was a stereotypical cheerleader. My point with this is that often other people only paid attention to me because of my appearance, or they thought everything I did was against them. And this was very big amongst girls, which I think might have something to do with this as well. Now, this involved my husband's sister, who just got married last week. My husband and I got invited to the wedding, and it was at a very fancy location. It was truly a beautiful wedding. So I decided to dress up a little bit. I had a baby 3 months ago, but I wore a dress that showed off a little bit more of my chest. When her and her husband were busy catching up with friends, some family members came and complimented my outfit with the always so necessary comment about how good I look, and this is because I've lost most of my baby weight, and you just know how much people like to talk about that. Now, another major factor for this incident was all because we didn't bring our baby with us to the wedding. One of my friends was babysitting for us since she lives nearby, and my son only breastfeeds right now, so my friend had to drive him twice so that I could feed him. The first time was when they were giving speeches, so I went to my car, fed my son, and then she left. And then the second time, some people wanted to see the baby, so as we were outside, some of our family came to greet my baby. Now, the thing is that my other sister-in-law posted photos of the wedding, and she posted one of me and her while captioning it that she was with the prettiest doll, and this is because she calls me Barbie sometimes. Well, my sister-in-law thought that was very nasty, so she posted on Instagram saying that no matter what, some people always want to shine brighter than others and steal the spotlight even on special occasions. I saw that and I sent her a text message. I said to her, "Hey, is everything okay?" Now, she didn't answer that day, but the next day she responded by saying that I can't possibly be this tone deaf and that the post was about me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then she said that because people were posting and talking about how pretty I looked at her wedding and how good I looked and how lucky my husband was, it somehow pulled attention away from her. I told her I was sorry, but I don't really see how that has anything to do with me. She then said that I'm doing this on purpose, and to back up her argument, she said that in the photo I posted, people were commenting on that kind of stuff. She insists that I wanted to outshine her by basically looking prettier and by having people look at my baby. So I think this might just be some female competition thing, because I've seen this other times. It wouldn't be weird to me if she thought that me dressing up or losing weight was something that I've done to purposefully harm her, because it has happened to me before. But I don't want to be too harsh, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt because maybe I was wrong. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? You're not the jerk. You literally did nothing wrong. You came to the wedding, you dressed up, and you had your baby with you just to feed him. Like, the fact that your sister-in-law would act this way and act so weird and competitive and petty, that in my opinion is a reflection of how toxic she truly is. And that has absolutely nothing to do with you. An entitled Karen tries to get me fired from my volunteer position after I gave him some advice for a chess game he won at a local tournament. Because right now she's claiming I'm trying to corrupt her son and that I'm gonna ruin his life if I ever help him again. And I am still astonished by this delusional Karen. Here's what happened. So I'm active in a local scholastic chess organization. We set up some formal lessons, provide a place for kids to play or study chess in a more casual setup, and occasionally we organize tournaments. We work through a local school system, so we get a leg up compared to some other similar organizations, as we have venues, some advertising, and a degree of administrative work already done with the schools themselves. I played with this league as a kid myself, and now that I'm an adult, I do some volunteer work for them. Last Sunday we had a tournament. It was a 5-round Swiss system, so this was an event that would last most of the day. I was running the under 12 years old division, which is mostly making sure the kids don't claw each other's eyes out, getting things set up and cleaned up after it's done, and doing the pairings as each round finishes and the next one ends. Because it's an all-day affair, while some parents stay all or most of the time, it's far more common for parents to just drop their kids off in the morning and pick them up at about 4:30 when things finish up. So when things are wrapping up and I was handing out trophies for first, second, and third place, our second place trophy winner had no parent in sight and was just kind of awkwardly holding his bag and his trophy looking around. The parents are supposed to be there by 4:30, but we had about 80 kids in just my division of this tournament, so I knew that the odds that at least one will be late are pretty high. So overall, I wasn't very worried. I asked the kid if he had a phone and he did not. I then asked if he knew how to reach out to one of his parents, and then he gave me his mom's number. When I called her, it went to voicemail, so I left a message reminding her that the tournament was over and she needed to pick up her kid. Now, I can't leave if there are any children still there, so I got to doing some cleanup, which the kid offered to help with. It took maybe 20 minutes to pack everything up, but still there was no sight of this mom. I still can't leave, so I got one of the sets back out and asked if he wanted to play a casual game or do a puzzle or anything. He asked if we could go over some of his tournament games, and we spent the next 20 to 25 minutes analyzing one of his games from the tournament. Now, I'm no grandmaster, but I am still a pretty strong player, so even though he won this game, there were quite a few errors in his play, and I was trying to demonstrate what he could have done better. The kid takes the instruction really well and is actually marking notes on his score sheet. Well, all of a sudden, our analysis is interrupted by a woman shouting at me. She screams out, "You there, what are you doing with my son?" I look up and I realize that we have our entitled mother of this kid. Now, she didn't look like a stereotypical Karen, but she definitely had the tone and mannerisms of one. I got up, congratulated her son in front of her for taking second place in the division, and explained how we were going over one of his games while we were waiting for her to show up. The kid chimes in with how I helped him realize a few mistakes, and you could see the gears turning in the entitled mother's brain. After a second, she bellowed out the following: "You can't do that to a kid. If you mix positive messaging and negative messaging, you will give him a complex. And I know what I'm talking about. I have a degree in psychology." Well, when she said that, that took me off my guard, but I wanted to finish cleaning up and go home. So I just said how it's already past 5 and I wanted to finish cleaning up, and I was sure the kid wanted to go home as well. Surprisingly, the entitled mom didn't want to stay and pick a fight any further, simply getting her kid and then leaving. Now, I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was a short one. Well, unfortunately, I was wrong. She sent our organization 21 separate emails demanding that I be fired. Her degree in psychology lets her know how damaging I could be to her precious boy and how I'll rob him of any desire to keep playing by confusing him. It's apparently wrong to tell a child that even though he won a game, and that's great, there are better moves he could have played during the game to improve his play. And she's already gone through this kind of garbage with a coach her husband hired for the kid, and she fired him, and now she wants the league to fire me too. Today's emails have taken a new tone. She must have found out somehow that the kid helped me clean up, because instead of strident demands I be fired on the basis of the profound psychological harm I have done to her kid, now they've claimed that we violated child labor laws, and she'll report us to the state labor board. But she would be happy not to do that if they take responsibility by dismissing me. Now, I know there are nutty parents about chess, but this is the first time I've had prolonged close exposure to one. I'm not worried at all, but I feel bad for the kid. He was nice and respectful, and a part of me wonders where he gets it from, since it certainly isn't from his mother. And no, he hasn't shown any signs of distress from me analyzing a game with him. And with all things considered, I seriously hope I never have to deal with this Karen of a mother ever again. Wow, the entitled mom in that story sounds awful. She didn't even show up to her kid getting second place at a big tournament, but she also is denying him any kind of assistance in getting better, and that in my opinion is like super toxic. Sure, he won the game, but you can always improve. No one's perfect at anything, like why would you not want him to get better? And it's also like crazy to me that she was trying to find every angle possible just to try and get this guy fired for helping out her kid. That's insane to me, and honestly, I hope you never have to deal with her ever again, because that Karen seriously sounds unhinged. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for writing my parents a check for everything they say I owe them, as well as telling them to shut up and get out of my life? Because honestly, they've been obnoxious over the years, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I am 30 years old and fairly successful thus far. My parents are a huge part of my success, and they keep me motivated through school. They gave me a great childhood, they helped me graduate debt-free, my mom's contacts helped me land a well-paying job straight out of university, so I guess you could say I'm a nepo baby. Without them, who knows where I would be? Well, they think this gives them carte blanche to interfere with my life. They constantly critique everything about my life. I cannot think of one aspect of my life that they approve of, and I'm not a bad person or anything like that. It's not like they have a problem with me because I'm an addict or working as a sugar baby. They just think they know better than everything. I had them over to my place for my dad's birthday, and everything was just wrong. My apartment was too small, the stove didn't have precise control of the heating elements, and I scorched the sauce, even though I didn't, and it was perfect. Like literally everything was just wrong, and they kept saying that they wanted better for me, and that after everything they did for me, I should be doing better. But the thing is, I am doing well, and because I live the way that I do, I've actually done fantastic for the last 8 years. So I wrote them a big check and I asked them to hold on to it. I took a picture of them with the check, and they asked what it was for. I said that it was everything they wasted on me, since obviously they think that I have failed. So I'm giving them a refund. I told them that I love them and that I appreciated their help, but now that they were paid back, they could keep their opinions to themselves and out of my apartment. Well, when I said that, they got huffy and then they left. I then heard from my brother that they are angry that I did that. But you know what? I don't really care. I just want them to accept that I don't owe it to them to live my life the way that they want. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't totally think that you're the jerk here. I think you made a very clear point to your parents that they need to back off and let you live your life. Like they have no say in the matter at all, and they seriously need to try and mind their own business. And it seems like this is like the only way to give them a wake-up call. Because you said it best. They are literally all over you trying to run your life, and that's like super obnoxious. You are 30 years old, you're fairly successful, you have your ducks in a row more or less, and honestly, I don't blame you for wanting them to back off. And if this was the way to do that, then so be it. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your parents really needed to like get a reality check, and it seems like this was the best way to make that happen. My entitled father wants me to be a housewife and has been constantly trying to force me in that direction just so he can marry me off to one of his coworkers. And honestly, I'm just so glad I'm away from my dad, and I hope I never see him ever again. Here's what happened. So I grew up in a household that was basically a nightmare for both me and my mom. My father had 2 children before me and then 2 children after me, and all these boys he had with my mom. And because I was born right in the middle, I was singled out for a lot of stuff. For example, my dad would often ask each of us what we wanted from the store as a reward for doing well in school. My brothers always got what they wanted, but I hardly got anything. On birthdays, my brothers got to see whatever movies they wanted, but I never got to choose movies that I wanted to see. If I asked for something for Christmas, I more than likely wouldn't get it unless it was from another family member. Whenever one of us started doing bad in school, I would always get the biggest punishments, while my brothers all got off easy. My dad also allowed my brothers to watch him when he cooked so they could learn, but I had to learn how to use things like the grill all on my own. My brothers could wear swim trunks or a Speedo, but I was only allowed to wear a one-piece suit, which I hated because it made going to the bathroom incredibly awkward. My dad would always come and support my brothers whenever they had an event, but whenever I had one, all I would get was constant criticism. The worst one by far is whenever my brothers got birthdays or Christmas money, they'd spend it on candies and toys and clothing, but I wasn't even allowed by my father to touch my money. And I counted from when I was 7 all the way up until I was 15, and I had over $800 in cash that I was denied. Now, this got way worse when I entered middle school. My older brothers by the names of Matt and Kyle, those are not their real names, realized I was being left out, and we talked about it with our little brothers, and now all of us include each other in our celebrations. But now, all of a sudden, my dad was constantly telling my brothers not to interact with me in any way and to pretend like I wasn't even there. And then, all of a sudden, my stuff started going missing. It started small with my pencil sharpener and a note card or something like that. Then it escalated into my merchandise disappearing, and then my movies. And anything I bought with my own money would be gone the very next day. Then I would confront my dad about it, and he didn't deny what he did and said that he threw it all away because I'm growing up to be a housewife that doesn't need any of this stuff. But I told him I didn't want to be a housewife. I want to get a real job. And after I said that, he sent me to my room. As I entered high school, I found that my swimsuits had been thrown out, as well as a few of my cool shirts, with my phone also being thrown out. Now, when I found out that that had been thrown out, I tried keeping it cool at school that day, but I just broke down in the middle of class. And when my parents found out about what happened, my dad kicked me out. My older brothers had graduated high school already and were living together to save money, so I went to stay with them, and I was able to get therapy. And eventually, I learned that my stuff wasn't thrown out, and that's when I learned the truth. My dad tried to throw it all out just so he could almost force me into being a housewife so he could marry me off to one of his coworkers. But when I broke down crying in school, he kicked me out so he didn't have to hear me, because the moment I cried, he decided to abandon the plan and cover his tracks. Now, you might be thinking, where on earth is your mom in all of this? She did everything that she could to help me, but her own husband wouldn't even listen to her. I was the middle child, and he was entitled to everything regarding me because I'm his daughter. And if he wants this to be my life, then this is my life. I mean, it's no wonder that me being kicked out led to them getting divorced. And if you're wondering about my little brothers, they want nothing to do with my dad, and they actively refuse to go to the house. And moving in with Matt and Kyle was easily the best decision I've ever made. I learned that all my stuff was saved from the dumpster and put in a storage facility, so I was able to get all my stuff back. And the clothing that didn't fit me, we sold by having a yard sale. Matt and Kyle's backyard also had a pool and a hot tub, and I was finally able to experience them in a bikini. Thanks to help from mom and my little brothers, I was able to confess to my best friend, who is now my girlfriend. When I turned 18, I came out of my shell and I got piercings in all the places I've always wanted to get them. When I graduated, we celebrated at Matt and Kyle's house. The whole family was there except for my dad. Now, where was he anyways? Well, he got arrested for a DUI car crash after being under the influence of the herb, if you know what I mean, and has been in jail for a few years now awaiting trial. I've now moved out of Matt and Kyle's house as they bought a house for me and my girlfriend, which of course had a pool and a hot tub. So to my dad, I hate you for being absolutely awful to me as a parent, and I hate you for being terrible to me because I was born in the middle. Yeah, your dad is absolutely insane, and he got exactly what he deserved. Like, this guy was trying to marry you off to one of his coworkers while also trying to force you to be a housewife. Like, first of all, that's insane, and secondly, it shows why he was such an awful father and husband. Like, I don't blame your mom for getting out of that situation as fast as possible. So honestly, I'm so glad you're away from that man, and thankfully you won't have to deal with him for a long time, because the way he treated you growing up is honestly so unacceptable, because you did not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting to share my inheritance with my siblings? Because right now they're threatening to sue me if I don't give them a portion of what I inherited. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 50 years old, my brother's 45, and my sister is 53. Our parents got separated after 43 years, and no one told me anything. They see me as a person who's not good for living their own life. I called my daughter who's 24, and she told me of the separation 4 months afterwards. I reached out to my dad, and he was happy to hear from me and told me my siblings have cut him out of their life. I eventually talked dad to moving to where I was so that he could be closer and I could help him out. I talked to dad every single day. We started going for rides together on weekends, riding motorcycles, having bonfires and cookouts, or just an invite for home-cooked meals. It honestly was so great. One day, dad called to cancel our weekend trip and said he was not feeling well. I told him to go to the hospital, but he insisted that he was fine. I tried to call him on the next day, but he didn't answer. I drove out to check on him, and that's when I discovered him on the floor. I went to the hospital every single day. My siblings and mother eventually showed up to visit him, and I stayed in the hall. After the hospital and rehabilitation, he was sent to a skilled facility. Only after 3 days, he started making comments about the staff there, and about a week later, he asked me to get a camera to put in his room. 2 days after I installed the nanny cam, I caught them treating him horribly. So I called the state, the county, and I filed every report that I could. I hired dad an attorney, and after the attorney was hired, my siblings started to visit about every month. I thought that the family was healing, so we started doing things as a family. Well, dad got his justice, and he received a settlement. With the help of a realtor, I found him a small house and started working on it to bring him home. Dad's health was getting worse, and he entered a hospice care. I had the hospice case manager helping develop a home plan, and dad's health started declining rapidly. Not long afterwards, hospice said it would no longer be advisable to move him. I sat with dad continually, hiring sitters to stay with him when I had to leave. And when my dad passed away, I went home and I just cried. My dad was my very best friend. I pulled out dad's will and took it to the county courthouse to probate. I was told there was no need to probate it, that the will was my deed to dad's house. Dad had filed a POD, which stands for payable on death, and this was at the bank listing me as a sole beneficiary. Our mother kept on telling me it was not right and that I need to give my siblings equal shares of the money. She guilted me to share some of it, and I gave them each about $15,000. But apparently it was not enough, and this was 4 years ago. Fast forward to August 23rd, 2023, and I received a letter from an attorney demanding that I will the house to my siblings, that if I didn't, they would sue me to compensate for the money that I did not give to them. Now, I did not reply to the attorney. I sent him the payable on death form from the bank listing me as the sole beneficiary. I reminded him he had a copy of the will, and I asked him to look it over again, and he would see my siblings had no claim on anything. Now, I have yet to hear any kind of response from their attorney, but I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for not sharing my inheritance with my siblings? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, from the sounds of it, it really doesn't seem like your siblings had any kind of stake in your dad's health. Like, your dad said it best, they cut him out of their lives, and they want nothing to do with him. And it's only when he was like close to his deathbed that they were even giving him the time of day. And that's really toxic in my opinion. Now, I don't know the details about why the parents got separated or anything like that, so I'm sure there's some kind of nuance there that we definitely don't know as the reader. But with all things considered, it honestly just sounds like the siblings have sour grapes because they didn't get any of the house. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have a long road ahead of you when it comes to finding resolution to all of this, but hopefully with all things considered, it works out in your favor. My girlfriend wants me to stop contacting my ex-girlfriend, as she claims that I'm still attached to her, even though I just consider us friends. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I started dating my current girlfriend in 2023, and at first she was cool with me being friends with my ex, but I will say my ex did some messed up stuff to us, like starting arguments and trying to include my girlfriend in it, and even the way that she left our house. She didn't tell me, and I happened to come back home one day after spending nights at my girlfriend's house, and all her stuff was packed up, while also taking some of my stuff in the process. Well, that was all months ago, and honestly, I can't hold grudges. Honestly, it's kind of the opposite. I really suck at letting people go. And this isn't the first fight that we've had about letting someone go. I actually had to let go of a different ex turned friend who was honestly a better person than this one. I know that in a lot of relationships, people hate their partners talking about their exes, but I really can't be friends with them with little to no drama, and I just want her to trust me on that. How can she tell me that she trusts me that I won't go back to her, but then tell me that she really does not want me talking to her at all? And also, how do I tell her that it's not the fact that I'm dying on the hill of talking to my ex, but it's about the freedom of choosing what I do? I hate the ultimatum of you have to do this or I'm gonna leave, when in reality, you should just trust me to be a good person. I mean, I don't know, am I in the wrong here? Should I just cut it off entirely? We don't have kids or anything like that, but I feel like it doesn't hurt to be friendly in some kind of way. Oh, and I did send my ex a song the other day that reminded me of her, but my girlfriend blew up about how that means I'm still super attached, but that's just who I am. I would do that for literally anybody. So honestly, I feel really stuck, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, I think your girlfriend is 100% correct. It really seems like you're still attached to your ex-girlfriend, and you clearly have not let go of that person and moved on. Like, you do know you're in another relationship, right? You do realize you have a girlfriend right now, and that she is way more important than your ex-girlfriend who left in the middle of the night? Like, from the sounds of it, your ex-girlfriend probably doesn't feel the same way about you as you do about her. Like, she straight up just ditched out of your life, and you're trying to be like, oh, but we could still be friends. It's like, no, you can't. She clearly doesn't like you. This isn't some situation where she was a friend in the first place. She was your girlfriend. And for you to still be in contact with her, in my opinion, if I was in your girlfriend's shoes, that would be like a clear indication that no, you have not moved on. Like, why on earth would you be sending songs to your ex-girlfriend when what you should be doing is sending songs to your girlfriend? Like, why would you waste your time making your ex-girlfriend feel special when your current girlfriend feels like garbage because you're not paying attention to her? And it really seems like you're dancing around the issue. You're trying to be like, ooh, I would do this for anybody. But that's the thing, you're not doing this for anybody. You're doing this for your ex-girlfriend. Like, you're paying attention to her for some reason, and that is absolutely a sign that you have not let go of her. And I think the word friendship is a really bad terminology in this case. I think if anything, you could probably be amicable in some kind of way, but going out of your way to like reach out to her and like send messages to her and stuff like that, that is really weird in my opinion, and I think you are absolutely in the wrong for pursuing it in this way. My awful entitled foster parents kicked me out of the house when I was 18 years old, all because they couldn't make money off of me anymore from the state. But now, after all these years later, they're now contacting me, begging me to move back in with them, all under the guise that I'll have a place to stay so that I can pay off their mortgage that they can no longer afford. But I decide to put them in their place by telling them off in a way that I've wanted to do since I was 18 years old. Here's what happened. Okay, so I wish I was making this stuff up because I honestly cannot believe the audacity or the stupidity of these people. Now, to start things out, I was told to leave by my 18th birthday by my foster parents as I would no longer be profitable past 18 years old. And this is based off of a paid fostering scheme by the local council. So I slipped out in the small hours of the morning a month after my 17th birthday. I found my biological parents purely by chance, even though I wasn't looking for them, and this is right before my 18th birthday, and it turned out that I look exactly like my mother. I mean, we almost look like twins. She was forced to give me up by her parents after having me at 15 years old, and she was not given a choice in the matter. I was reunited with my biological family just after my 18th birthday, and I moved in with them at 19 years old. I then spent the next 6 years working 60 hours a week and paying zero rent. My mom refused to take a penny from me until I could put down a deposit for a mortgage on my own place. Well, I dropped $110,000 up front on a $165,000 two-bedroom flat in 2015, and I will be mortgage-free before the end of 2024. I have not been in contact with my foster parents since I slipped out in 2007. I never had any intent of keeping in touch with them, as they never once pretended to care about me during my childhood. I do, however, keep in touch with their biological daughter Kelly, that's not her real name, and that's because Kelly is also someone who doesn't talk to them. She actually had my back during my childhood, and I had hers. Just before Christmas was done, they got in touch with Kelly and asked asked her if she still talks to me at all, and that they would like to get in touch with me. Kelly told them this was my choice to make and not theirs, and that she would forward a number to me. So I picked up an old burner phone and I texted back to them. I said to them, "What do you want?" They responded by saying, "Hi, how have you been? We've been worried about you all these years." I responded by saying, "Baloney. There is something you want from me. Don't waste my time with small talk, just get to the point already." They responded back by saying, "Okay, fine, you're right. We have something to ask. We are having trouble paying the mortgage after interest rates have gone up. So our repayment has also gone up. Would you consider moving back in with us to help out? We need some extra income for the next 15 years. You can have the bigger room with the in-suite bathroom this time." I responded back by saying, "I literally have 1 year left on my mortgage, and my repayments did not go up at all, and I might even be able to pay it off early. So no, I will not move in with you. Maybe you can try some nefarious activities or get another foster child to pay for your stuff." They responded back by saying, "There is no need to be rude to us. We are trying to help you here. We are offering you an opportunity. Do you have a job? I mean, what do you do for money?" I said to them, "Oh, I'm a doctor, and I diagnose you as completely stupid. Dr. Danny hereby prescribes you a nice tall glass of shut up, because you two must be really stupid if you want me to believe that you would be helping me out by having me pay to live with you. If ever I choose to tolerate your presence in my life again, it will be you paying for the privilege of my company." Well, when I said that, they definitely did not like that. They responded back by saying, "Oh, just forget it if you're gonna act like that." I texted back by saying, "Bye, have a nice day," and then they responded by swearing at me, in which I texted back by saying, "No thank you." Now at this point, I just turned off the phone and stuck it back in my forget it drawer. That was December 18th, and I had a great Christmas with my biological family and my foster sister, seeing how she spends Christmas with my parents rather than hers. Now you might think I was being harsh with my foster parents here, especially with all the stupid comments, but I assure you that they were gold medalists at doing the bare minimum as parents. I was fed and given clothing, I was given a room and a bed, and I was sent to school, but I had no toys, no birthday or Christmas presents, no care or love. I was basically just a lodger who got his rent paid by the state. And for them to now try to ask for my help whilst painting it as them helping me? No, I don't think so. My biological mother was more of a mother to me in the first day of knowing her than my foster mother was in 17 years. So I guess that's what you get when you neglect one child for his entire childhood, and then lose both of them because of it. Kelly slipped out the back at 17 just like I did, and I know that because I was the one to pick her up, and we've never felt better about moving on away from those awful people. Wow, they really do sound like pieces of work. Not only did they kick you out at 18 years old because they can't make any more money off of you, then all these years later, when you've established yourself and you've got all this money at your disposal and you have your own home and life, they step back in and say, "Hey, you should move back in. That way we can make our mortgage." It's like, what in the world is wrong with these people? Like, they definitely have got to have some kind of screws loose in their head if they think it's okay to treat people this way. So truly good for you for shutting them down and putting them in their place, because these foster parents don't sound like parents at all. And I guarantee you, if you did by some chance move back in with them, then all their terrible behaviors would come back and haunt you once again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting revenge on a former friend after they practically ruined my life and spread false rumors about me to everybody in my school? Because right now, I'm still getting over the way that I was treated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story is a little hard to summarize due to the extreme amount of content, and I apologize if this story is really long. It will take a while for you guys to understand the severity of the situation before the climax, or else I will look like the obvious jerk here. As a heads up, I'm in high school, and I have 3 really good friends, but I lost 2 throughout this story. I always had a really bipolar relationship with one of these friends, and for the sake of the story, we'll just call him Jack. Jack is not his real name. Now, Jack could be a real jerk sometimes, but then he could suddenly become really nice, and a lot of people would end up falling for his so-called good side lie. He started dating one of my friends, who we will call Kate, also not her real name, and they became really close. As much as I see the big personality difference, I honestly didn't mind. They seemed really happy to be together, so I was just happy for them. Jack eventually joined our group with my 2 other friends and myself. I was close to one of those people, as they were my best friends since my early days as a teenager. We'll call this person Kai, also not their real name. Kai was a good and logical friend. He wasn't the loud or attention-seeking type of friend. He was reasonable, smart, and friendly. One day, his grandmother overseas got sick, and he had to go overseas to see her. I wished him well, and he would be gone for at least 4 weeks, which meant I was then stuck with my 2 other friends, who were both around my same age. They started getting really close with Jack, literally, like as if both of them were dating him. I didn't really mind about that part, only when they started leaving me out of things. They would often forget about me, exclude me in groups, and I guess just overall ignore me. But for Jack, I could see that he was happy. Now, I am not being a toxic hater, but I honestly felt like he just joined our group and ended up being the heart of the group, even though he just joined yesterday. Now, being that idiot I went to confront him privately first to see what he thinks about what's happening. So I asked him how he's doing and how he likes the new group. He replied saying it's good and that it's probably going to be his permanent group. I then get straight to the point and I ask him to maybe consider including me in more things, as I felt a little left out. Now, expecting him to be nice about it, I was met with literally the exact opposite. Here's how he responded. He laughed at me and then he said, "You really think I would go out of my way just so you can be friends with them? Just accept it. They like me better than you, and there's nothing you can do about it." Now, when he said this, I was taken aback by this response, but I just walked away to avoid escalation. And just as a side note, our entire friend group, including Jack, are in the same class, and this will allow the story to make a little bit more sense. I then proceed to talk to my 2 other friends about what Jack had just said, but while I was doing so, he came along, and to avoid him finding out I was telling them, I just immediately left. After swiftly running away, I stopped and I feel my phone fall out of my back pocket. I pick it up only to see that I accidentally butt recorded for about 3 minutes, and this will be important later on. After that, I just think that maybe it would be better if I just forgot about what he said, but unfortunately, I wasn't given that privilege. When I was in class, I was just minding my own business until I saw at the corner of my eye, Jack talking to the 2 of my friends. By the looks on their faces, they seemed shocked, like as if whatever he was saying, they believed him. Now, I honestly just brushed it off, and I thought maybe it was just a movie spoiler or something like that. But then my friend Kate came up to me with my other friend. We'll call this other friend Eve, which is also not her real name. They proceeded to say to me, "I can't believe that you would do that to Jack. You're such a jerk and you're officially out of our group." Now, after a bit of a heated conversation, I found out that Jack told them that I was the one who said all the things that he did, and that I cursed at him in the locker rooms, punched him, and said that's how he got his bruise, which I know for a fact isn't the case, because he got it from playing soccer 2 days ago. As much as I was mad, I didn't really care. I knew that they would come to their senses eventually, and that they would know that they were wrong. Now, I showed it quite obviously, and that didn't exactly satisfy Jack, as he probably wanted a reaction from me. So the next day I come in, and I walk into class only to see everybody staring at me. I look back at everybody and I raise my shoulders and take a seat. I then get paper thrown at me from behind, and constant whispers with my name in it passed around. Now, I was extremely confused what exactly was going on, and I was greeted with more garbage during lunch break when a whole lot of kids called me insults and poured water all over me. After all of this, I still tried to not show any forms of anger. I now knew their intentions were explicit and that they just didn't like me. But why? Well, you see, Jack is quite a popular kid, and he's a well-known name around the school. He acts all nice and most people like him, and unfortunately, they tend to believe him a lot more. After talking to a quiet kid on socials, I found out that Jack spread really sick rumors about me, some of which were really petty, stuff like me cursing at him in DMs, and some of them were bad as direct threats, as well as physical violence against him. And when I heard about this, I knew that this wasn't going to be good for me. The next morning, I wake up with over 60 messages and 5 missed calls. I read them, and I swear 90% of them were threats against me, including that I somehow get hurt, as well as racist insults. Now, I am quite thick-skinned, but seeing all of this was just a little bit too much for me. I somehow built the guts to go to school that day, and I entered the classroom with 20 pairs of eyes giving me an evil stare. I got paper and books thrown at me, my name said next to very bad words, and worst of all, my 2 friends were laughing at me, and the teacher just didn't even notice. I then went outside at break to go and hide in some unknown corner of the school, as I was too scared to see anybody. The rumors were so bad, they were even being spread to higher year levels, which made me scared for my life after reading those messages. When dismissal came, I stayed in the classroom, pretending to clean up my books by dropping them and waiting for everybody to leave the school before leaving myself. Now, you're probably wondering why I didn't just tell the teachers or my parents. I get this question a lot when I'm telling friends and family this story, and it's because it was just hard hard. If you were in that situation, it would not have been so easy, as I felt like my life and my reputation was on the line. I go home and I thank God that it's Friday, and I keep getting countless messages on my phone. I end up blocking everybody, and I silence my phone to only focus on my homework and my studies. I mean, forget my social life. That can all go away now because it's all messed up thanks to one person. I couldn't sleep, and I kept reciting the awful things that people were saying to me. The weekend flies by, and bam, it's Monday. I try my best to pretend that I'm sick, but I was forced to go anyways. I walk in being as stealthy as I could. Also, I could be the first one in class. I look down at my book and I focus on nothing else but that. I can feel cold splashes of water hitting my back, but I just ignore it. Recess and lunch, I stay in the same corner still studying. It's like that every day for maybe the next 3 weeks, only getting worse every single time. Whether it be online or in person, the insults and the awful comments were everywhere. It went so far as to someone slapping my hand in class when the teacher was not around to see it. And some days my thoughts got really dangerous, and I was honestly not in a good headspace, with my feelings being really intense at the time. Well, one day I headed to that same corner only to see Jack and this huge gang of people blocking my way. I tried to ignore it and I go around them, but they push me back. Jack then says to me, "I bet I could beat your weak, skinny self in a 1v1. Now, honestly, I go to the gym 5 times every single week, and I could say that I was pretty tall, but on the other hand, Jack was short and skinny. Sometimes I question why I couldn't have just physically intimidated him in the first place, but it was 1 versus 7, so it was pretty impossible. I then rebuttal to his argument, and I say to him that I'm sorry for whatever I did, and I just want you to leave me alone. Well, they then pushed me to the ground and proceeded to attack me. Things got really bad, and I got really injured. And it's right about then that I started to run. And not just run away, I ran out of the school itself. After getting home, my parents got an absent email, and I just made up some dumb excuse. That night, I laid in bed thinking about a way I could finally end this. I watched videos on how to negotiate and how to de-escalate arguments, but then one particular video catches my eye. And this is a self-defense tutorial. I watch this, and then I watch more and more videos among that line. I remember doing martial arts when I was younger, when I was about 5 years old, but I quit all that when I started high school. I proceeded to practice all night to perfect my technique, only to then continue that for 2 more nights. And that's until I finally built the courage to confront him myself. I go up to him and I gaze into his eyes. His idiot buddy's watching from behind, and he said, "What are you up to, loser? What do you want now?" I tell him to stop whatever he's doing and to tell everybody the truth. He denies speaking any lies, and then he attacks me again. But this time, I don't flinch, and he just does it again. But then I decide to finally defend myself, and in the end, he holds his jaw and falls backwards. His friends defends him by trying to restrain me, but I lash out and I defend myself against them as well. I can feel all of their insults and awful comments towards me that has just built up for so long coming back to me now. I then break away from one of the kids and I go after Jack. A huge upperclassman stands in my way and pushes me back, but I was able to defend myself and continue my chase. His friends try to stop me, but all of them fail every single time. I see him standing next to my 2 friends pointing at me, and then it hits me, my phone recording. I catch my breath, pull out my phone, and I look for the video. And loud and clear was everything that I said. My friends look shocked as I played it again and again and again. His friends finally arrives, and I play the same thing over and over again to their faces. He immediately denies it, saying that I said stuff to him online, but I ask for screenshots and he quickly changes the subject. After everybody seems to start believing that everything he said was a lie, he finally confesses and says he did it, but blames it on his past experiences and his ADHD, as well as claiming that he has friendship problems too. I scoff loudly and I say the most proud words I've ever said. I said to him, "You really think ADHD did this? You really think all of your friends have to do with this? Imagine being rejected by your only friends, waking up every day to awful comments sent right to your phone, and not being able to study because all you jerks wanted to do was hurt me. I've had enough of you and I'm reporting you to this school." And yes, I was recording that the whole time. I then get messages from 3 people. The first and most funny one was from Jack, begging that I not tell the teacher, which I was dumbfounded by. The other 2 were my friends begging for my forgiveness, so I just blocked them and carried on. Soon the word spread, and I was out of people's conversations, and now it was Jack's turn. Now that I felt safe, and after I told the teachers, Jack was suspended for 10 days due to bullying, and anybody who sent me awful messages was also suspended too, and all I got was detention for getting in a fight. fight. They said they wouldn't have given me the detention because I was only defending myself from them, but they had to do it due to the school rules, which I understood. I honestly feel like I could have toned down the fighting a little bit, but it was real for me, so it was really hard to control. Now, I am still trying to get over some of the things that were said online to me, as some of it was very personal, but for now, I think I'm going to be alright. Wow, that's a crazy circumstance. And you know what? I know exactly where the original poster is coming from, and I know how hard it is to be in high school and to have people reject you and constantly coming after you. I'm someone myself who dealt with a lot of bullying, and I had a really hard time in high school and middle school, so I really sympathize with the original poster and their story and all the stuff they went through. And you know what? Some might think that this is not an accurate representation of being a high school student, but this is not too far away from my experience in high school, as well as several other people's experiences when they went through high school as well. And honestly, if you never went through this, I commend you and I applaud you, because this kind of stuff happens a lot more than you might realize. Kids get bullied for really stupid reasons, and it's never a simple situation to get out of. I can say for myself that getting in a fight like that is not a good idea. In my opinion, it's always the best idea to find a teacher or a parent and explain exactly what's going on and trying to find a solution that way. So honestly, I hope the original poster's life has gotten a lot better, because what they described from their high school experience honestly sounded awful, and hopefully nothing like that ever happens ever again. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that she's brainwashed, all because she wants to watch the Super Bowl simply because of Taylor Swift? Because right now she is really mad at me and she's demanding an apology, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've been watching American football since I was a kid. I am a huge New England Patriots fan, and my wife has never watched it, and we've been together for almost 10 years. She is athletic and she does like sports, but she always said watching sports on TV is a huge waste of time, which is completely fine. I respect that. And she never said that I shouldn't watch it or try to nag me about it. My wife is a huge Taylor Swift fan, so now that she is dating Travis Kelce, my wife suddenly shows great interest in football and even started watching it, with her of course supporting Kelce's team. And honestly, that felt a little weird to me. For example, she made fun of me when I was in a bad mood when the Patriots lost and said that it's stupid to feel that way because it's only sports. But now she's fully invested in the Super Bowl, and we are not even American. But I didn't say anything because at least she shows interest in football. For the last few years, it became a tradition that me and my 3 friends watch the Super Bowl at my place. The first time was in my parents' house, and now it's in my apartment. My wife never joins us, so it's become a guys' night. Well, a couple of nights ago, she said that she wants to host a Taylor Swift-themed Super Bowl party, and she wanted to invite her friends. I said to her that they are more than welcome to join us, but that I won't host a Taylor Swift-themed party in my apartment on what was supposed to be a guys' night planned well in advance. Well, she started screaming that I was being rude to her. Then I told her what I think about all of this, so I told her that I can't believe she even wants to watch it after all the comments of how it's such a waste of time, that I can't believe she changed all of her views just because of Taylor, and that she's just being brainwashed by the media. Well, now she's mad at me and she wants me to apologize. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, a few things to point out. There might have been some kind of middle ground you could have gone to when it comes to like planning a party, and I think if you said, hey, I don't want to have a Taylor Swift themed party, but we can have some kind of party in general, like maybe compromise a little bit so the both of you can be happy with this party while still preserving that you want your friends there and you want to have a good time. But I think all of that went straight out the window the second you called her brainwashed and you said, wow, you don't even like any of this. Like, it really seems like you're trying to like gatekeep the situation, and in my opinion, that is such a terrible way to go about doing this. Like, think about it. For the first time in your 10-year relationship, your wife is actually interested in football. And sure, it took Taylor Swift of all people to make that happen, but at least you now have some kind of like common hobby. But I really think you blew any kind of opportunity of having that continue in the future after you said that your wife is brainwashed. Like, that's incredibly toxic, and I think you really do need to apologize. So in my opinion, I think you're the jerk, and I think you should have handled that way better than you actually did. An entitled Karen makes my life a living nightmare when I was the IT manager of a company I used to work for. So I decided to get revenge years later by hacking into her email and essentially sabotaging her job, resulting in her getting fired. And I've honestly never felt better about getting revenge in my life. Here's what happened. So I was the IT manager at a small television network. I worked there for about 5 years until I became disabled for totally unrelated reasons. I worked at the corporate office and it was a pretty good job, and I liked it of course, but there were a bunch of jerks there. Let's just say that me and the local station station manager didn't get along. She would blame all of her problems and why she hadn't got her work done on the computers. If she hadn't done something that her boss told her by email, she would blame me because she didn't get the email. When I upset her because I wouldn't let her do something, like when I banned eBay network-wide, she would have her kid load down the receptionist's computer with all kinds of spam, malware, and viruses. I had complained about it to the upper management, but she still argued that it was really my fault. Me and my employees could fix every computer at 23 stations, but we could never fix that receptionist's computer. After I had to quit for health reasons, I never messed with the company because it was a great job. That is, until a couple of years ago. One day, I was at the grocery store in the produce section, and I had seen some heads of lettuce. And then I thought about the word lettuce, and I remembered that's the station manager's password. Now, I don't know why I remembered that, but you know what? It was time for some fun. After I got home from the store, I took my time, made something to eat, I got a beer, and I comfortably sat down at my computer. We always used our initials in our emails at the company, so it wasn't hard to remember her email because her initials were, of all things, FMB. So I went to the web interface for their email server, I typed in FMB and lettuce, and I logged in. She had not changed her password in over 2 years, and it was such an easy password to remember. I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before. Maybe I just wanted to forget about her, but that's honestly too bad for her. So I thought to myself, now what? And honestly, I had to think about this for a while. Should I hack into her files on the network servers? No, that's a lot of work. So instead, I looked through her emails. There were some that looked like important documents, some conversations with other employees, and some of them were spam. I thought I would delete all of her emails, but I decided against it. It could look like there was a problem with her email account, and then they might just delete it and create it again, resulting in her probably picking out a new password. So I just deleted one email that looked really important, and then I logged out. So I sat back and I thought about it, and it took me over 2 weeks to figure out what I wanted to do. And trust me, it was a very enjoyable 2 weeks, I might add. Now, I am very patient when it comes to messing with other people. I got that from my seriously ornery father. So I can just delete an important email here and there, but not all of them. Just do it once in a while to start arguments over her email. I can take my time and enjoy this. So this will be something fun to do every so often. So every other week on a random weekday, I logged in and deleted an important looking email. Sometimes I would even delete 2 of them. This was to establish a consistent pattern of her blaming IT for her garbage, which I am sure didn't stop when I quit. I just wanted to make a more regular pattern, and I did that for about 5 months. After that, I stepped it up. I started doing it every week, especially every other Thursday night, just so it would look like she was lazy on Fridays. Although not every Thursday, the weeks in between were a random day, so it wasn't so obvious. And I did that for about 3 more months. Well, 1 week after enjoying messing with her for the better part of the year, I said screw it, and I deleted an important looking email every single day that week. Well, the following Monday I couldn't log in, and the email address wasn't there any longer. So I thought to myself, why did her email just get deleted? Well, my suspicions were confirmed when I talked to a friend of mine that still worked for the station manager. She got fired for blaming not getting her work done on IT. And my friend volunteered that information because she knew that I would love to hear it, even though I didn't tell my friend that I'm the reason she got fired. But as a bonus, my friend, the assistant station manager, got promoted to the station manager position. So it was great that she got fired, but still, I kinda miss messing with her every single week. Wow, that is an awesome form of petty revenge. Because seriously, this came along 2 years later? You seriously sat around and said, okay, we're gonna do this, and you plotted out exactly how you were gonna do this with this slow burn technique. That is hilarious to me, and I love everything about that. But it's also really funny to see that all these years later, she's still blaming IT for all of her problems. Everything that she can't do, she's always looking to IT and being like, wait, no, it's their fault. But in reality, it's her own fault. She literally just can't do her job. So honestly, good for you for getting back at her for treating you so poorly when you work there. Her behavior and attitude is completely unacceptable, and I think it's really funny that you took her down in such a roundabout way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I kicked out my best friend from my house after she treated me like garbage by invading my personal space, going through my personal banking account, and mistreating my dog. And now I feel awful because I've lost a really good friend, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So as the title says, last week I kicked what I thought was a good friend out of my house because I can no longer take her antics. And honestly, I just wanted to get this out of my system. My friend Kendall and I met in university in 2016. Kendall is not her real name. We studied different majors, but we were from the same department, so we share many classes together and bonded over our passion for gaming and memes. Upon graduation, Kendall moved back to her hometown due to COVID and found a job there, and we kept in touch online through Instagram. About 3 years later, Kendall told me she found a better paying job in the city, so she's planning to move out of her parents' place. When I asked her about her plans on her accommodations, she replied by saying, "Well, that's the thing. I was going to ask if you have an extra bedroom that I could move into." For context, I've inherited an apartment from my late grandfather, which is a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath near the city center last January, and I currently live there since it is closer to my workplace and it has all the convenience of public transport. After some thinking, I thought that there's no harm in living with Kendall since I considered us as close as friends. We discussed the terms of the rent, and a week later, Kendall moved into my apartment. And you know what? It was great at first. My home felt more lively than usual, and the thought of going home to a close friend warmed my heart, and it gave me a sense of security. Things were okay for a while, but then everything goes downhill super quickly. Kendall started complaining about many things at home, about her work, her savings, and how she feels homesick. At first, I was very accommodating, thinking maybe she just needs time to get used to the city life. I offered as much help as I can, even to the point of if she's low on money, that I don't mind voiding a month's rent if that meant I could help her achieve financial stability. I taught her how I save money, how I would live off of my then low salary with several commitments like my car, my dog, and a student loan. I grew up where my parents expect me to be independent, so I told her things that I would do when I was low on cash, how to get freelance jobs, as well as several other things. But she always seemed to have excuses for every suggestion that I have. Finding a freelance job is too hard, or how she couldn't let go of her premium junk food, that she isn't willing to cook or meal prep, and I eventually decided to just leave it as it is. After 2 months of living together, I realized Kendall started treating me as some kind of competition. She would constantly ask me things like how much money I would make a month, while also asking how much job hoppings that took. Anything that she thinks she's better than me at, she'll definitely pop that question to try and figure it out. She boasts about how loyal she is to her awful paying company, and how I would never be able to move up the corporate ladder as she called me an industry frog. She once snooped my savings balance and asked me how in the world I had so much money saved up, especially considering all my commitments. Now, mind you, she didn't have a lot of commitments since her parents paid off her student loans and fully paid off her brand new car for her. She then said that maybe I should stop collecting rent from her, and that's when I got mad. I told her if she isn't happy living with me, then maybe she should just move out. And when I said that, that's when the crocodile tears started to shed. She said that it was a joke and I didn't have to take her so seriously. She then begged for forgiveness and promised to never snoop on my personal items and details ever again. Well, I let it go once, but she kept bringing things up. She would say stuff like, "Well, you have the cash and a credit card." And she would say this every time I told her I'd rather stay home because I no longer have a budget to go out and have fun. Comments like these became more frequent when I got a new job 6 months ago. On top of that, she doesn't clean up after herself. She tried to flirt with my boyfriend and at times parked in my parking space when our initial agreement was that she would find her own parking space if she moves in with her own car, all because my apartment has only one parking lot per unit. The straw that broke the camel's back, though, was when I caught her kicking my dog in his abdomen when I got home from work. I yelled at her and I rushed to check my dog. Luckily, he was fine, but I rushed him to the vet for safety measures. I got home and she sneered that it was just a dog, and as a friend, I shouldn't treat her like that. I asked her why she kicked my dog, but she just didn't even answer me. She shrugged her shoulders and tried to escape into her room. Now, at this point, it was already about a year since Kendall moved in with me, but I finally lost my cool and I told her off, bringing up her problems and how I tried to be nice and accommodating. Then I told her I'm giving her a week to move out and that from then on, I would rather we keep our relationship casual or we don't ever talk at all. Kendall cried and begged me not to kick her out, but soon it turned into her screaming back at me, calling me a bad friend because apparently in her words, I didn't tell her off on how badly she was behaving. There was a lot of back and forth, which I don't remember what I said, but I remember eventually calling her an entitled brat. She cried again, saying it was uncalled for, and then she stormed off to her room. The next day, I was bombarded with text messages from other university friends, some of them calling me selfish and others sympathizing with my situation. Apparently, Kendall posted our argument on Facebook and Instagram, painting me to be the bad guy. I was upset at first, but I decided that after Kendall moved out, we would no longer be friends, as well as those who took her side of the story and condemned me. Well, last week Kendall left, and I have changed the locks on my apartment. I curled up in bed and cried myself out, probably from the sadness of losing a friend, or maybe I'm finally letting out all of the frustrations. I am definitely still grieving about the loss of a friend, as I've had many good times with Kendall. For now, I want to focus on myself, and hopefully I will eventually get over this. Yeah, this Kendall person sounds like an awful individual. It doesn't sound like a good friend, and it seems like as soon as they moved in with you, their true colors definitely came out. It's one thing to have a friend and be on good terms with them for the most part, but it really is an entirely different experience to live with them, because you learn very quickly if they're a good roommate or not. And honestly, from the looks of it, Kendall is definitely not a good roommate. I really think you did the right thing by kicking her out of the house, and if I'm being completely honest, the fact that she kicked your dog is like more than enough reason to kick her out of the house. Like her weird comments and even snooping through my personal items, I could get past all of that eventually, but the second you hurt my dog is the second the gloves are off. Like at that point, there's no mercy and you've just gotta go. So truly, good for you for putting your foot down and deciding that she has gotta get out of your house, because Kendall did not sound like a good person. And I totally understand that you lost a friend, but I think the peace you're gaining in exchange for this awful person will totally be worth all the trouble of getting her out of the house in the first place. I refuse to invite my stepsister to my wedding, as she was such an awful bully growing up as teenagers. But now, as a result, my father is saying that he's not going to be going either unless I involve my stepsister in my wedding. And right now, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My father remarried when I was 14 years old. His wife Mary and his stepdaughter Kayla were nightmares in my life. Kayla and Mary are not their real names. My father is wealthy, so we used to go to a fancy school. Kayla was very mean to me, and I had a hard time to the point that I had to move to another school because I simply couldn't take it anymore. One time, she convinced my father and Mary that I was pregnant, and it was so embarrassing because I hadn't done that yet, if you know what I mean. And yet still, she and Mary convinced my father that I should do a pregnancy test. Well, after it came back negative, she told some of her friends at school who are 1 year ahead of me that I got rid of the baby, if you know what I mean. And you know what? This bullying was nonstop. She would do anything to make my life miserable. Once she paid one guy at school to start a rumor that I did nefarious things on a certain guy during class. And when I was already going to another school, she told everybody at my old school that I left because I was caught stealing at the mall, and that now I was in a youth detention center. My parents had split custody, so I used to spend 1 week with my father and 1 with my mom. After 2 years of this nightmare, I told my dad that I wouldn't want to stay at his place anymore, and that our relationship was reduced to 2 weekends a month. My relationship to my father was non-existent during college days. He would send me money and call me once every month, and that was maybe about it. I went to his house 1 or 2 times during my 5 years in college. I then started dating my fiance 4 years ago, and I only introduced him to my father after more than 2 years of the relationship. I'm now getting married this spring, and we're going to marry at the beach in another country in Europe. Both of our families are wealthy, and we decided to offer the stay at the hotel for our guests, and that they'll pay for their own tickets. Because of that, we decided to settle on a small number of people to attend, maybe around 80 people, and of course, Kayla is not one of them. The wedding plan started 3 months ago, and my father knew I wasn't going to invite Kayla. However, he flipped out now and said that I need to invite her. But I said I'm not going to invite a person that I don't have a single good memory with to such a big day in my life. And you know what? We've been fighting about it ever since then. This last week, he told me that I shouldn't count on his money if Kayla isn't invited, with my mom basically saying that she'll pay for everything. After that, he said he's not coming to the wedding without Kayla, and I replied by saying fine, stay home then. My grandmother and my aunt are trying to convince me to invite Kayla simply for the sake of our family, but to be completely honest, I'm not even sure if we are a family. So honestly, I need to know, should I invite Kayla, even knowing that this is one of the biggest days of my life, and she still makes me angry to this day? Am I the jerk if I refuse to invite her? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would ever invite Kayla to this wedding. She made your childhood and your life a living nightmare. She spread false rumors about you through your entire high school career, and honestly, she sounds like an absolutely awful individual. Always tried to find some kind of angle to put you down and treat you like garbage. And it really sounds like your dad and and your stepmom didn't do anything to make it better. Like, here you are suffering and dealing with this garbage all the time, and nobody's stepping in to try and make things right. Like, that, in my opinion, is so tragic, and it shows pretty blatantly that your dad clearly favors Kayla over you. And obviously, his reaction to Kayla not going to the wedding is so blown out of proportion, it's not even funny. He literally only wants Kayla to be at the wedding just so he can try and save face. And he also just doesn't like the fact that you're putting up boundaries about what you do and don't want at your wedding. Because I really think you have the right idea here. Kayla 100% would try to ruin your wedding if she had the chance. Because if she's willing to do that in high school, then I can guarantee you she would try to do that again. I'm also not totally convinced that Kayla has matured at all. Like, sure, maybe she's grown up in some kind of way, and she's seen the error of her ways, and she's like grown as an individual, but until she goes to you to apologize and seek your forgiveness, or quite literally show that, hey, I'm a better person now, look, I'm changing, or something along those lines, some kind of effort to show that she's different now, then in my opinion, I agree with you for not wanting her in your life. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is not someone I would consider family. And if I was in your shoes, there's no way she would ever be at my wedding. Am I the jerk for not allowing my friends to drink alcohol in my house? Because right now they are freaking out on me, claiming that I'm a bad person for not allowing them to get drunk at my house. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 37-year-old female and I do not permit alcohol in my house, and I haven't allowed it for at least 15 years now. There is a lot of alcoholism in my family, and in my late teens and early 20s, I was a problem drinker. Fortunately, I realized before things became too bad and have not drunk a single alcoholic drink ever since. I don't object to others around me drinking, I just won't do it myself, and I don't want it in my house. All of my family and friends are aware of this and the reasons why. So anyways, a group of my friends and I enjoy playing board and card games. We have decided to have game nights once a month, taking turns to host in our homes. The first two were fantastic and we really enjoyed ourselves. Some people were drinking alcohol and others weren't. My time is coming up, and in making the preparation, I reminded people that I don't allow alcohol in my house. But if they wanted to bring non-alcoholic beer or wine, then that's okay, and I could make up a few different cocktails that are non-alcoholic. I thought that would be a reasonable compromise, and that people would be fine with not drinking for a 3-hour event. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Two people from the group were extremely unhappy with that. They said that whilst they were aware of my house rule, they just thought that I meant I don't want alcohol in my house, and that I wouldn't object to others bringing some. I don't know where they got that idea, because all events in my house they have come to were alcohol-free. They also said that not permitting them to bring alcohol was inappropriate, and showed that I was a bad host and a bad friend. We did end up getting into a pretty petty argument, where they said I was being a hypocrite for not letting them drink, because I was practically an alcoholic at one point, and if I can't still be around alcohol after all these years, then I'm the one that needed help. I responded and said that if they can't go 3 hours without drinking, then it was them that actually needed the help. We tried not to get the others involved in the argument because we didn't want them to feel like they needed to take sides, but the argument ended up going from an in-person one to an argument on our friends group chat. This has of course led to people taking sides, even those friends who are in the group chat but don't attend the game nights. Now at this point, I'm thinking of withdrawing from game nights, mostly because of all the fighting. I still don't want alcohol in my house, but other people have been saying that I'm in the wrong for not complying with our country's social norm of drinking alcohol at events and parties. Others have said that there is nothing wrong with me having boundaries, and that people shouldn't automatically expect to be allowed to drink alcohol at every event. I don't really know what to think about it, because they are right that we live in a very huge drinking culture, and it is pretty normal to drink at events instead of not drinking. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. For starters, this is your house. That means that your rules are the ones that people have to follow, and it doesn't matter if anybody has any objections to them, they literally have no say in the matter. They can either listen to your house rules or they can leave, and personally, I'm a big believer in that. So the fact that they would say, oh, you're a bad person for not letting us get drunk at your house, as well as all these other terrible things, all of that, in my opinion, is so uncalled for, and it is completely unjustifiable. Like literally, they shouldn't be acting like that, and they shouldn't be ostracizing you, all because you're trying to change and stay sober. And you know what? You've got it right. If they can't spend 3 hours without getting drunk or having a drink, then they're the ones with the problem. You, on the other hand, have had sobriety for about 15 years, and you don't even want the temptation of falling backwards and losing all that progress. So in my opinion, I think your friends are massive jerks for acting this way, and I don't don't blame me for wanting to pull back from their game nights. An entitled mother tries to take over my wedding, demanding that I allow her daughter to be a flower girl at my ceremony. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my fiance and I planned our wedding for over a year. We wanted something small yet elegant, something that would have close friends and family. My husband's family is pretty down to earth, except for his aunt, who's known to be over the top with her behavior and entitlement. Everything was going smoothly until the week before the wedding. My husband's entitled aunt called and demanded that we include her 6-year-old daughter as a flower girl. Now, at this point, we already had 2 flower girls, and that was occupied by my nieces, and they were really thrilled about doing this. So I politely declined, explaining that arrangements were already made. Well, this entitled mom didn't take this well. She started a tirade about how her daughter was being excluded unfairly, and how we were ruining her child's self-esteem. I tried to stay calm, but honestly, she was relentless. I had thought that that was the end of it, but oh, I was so wrong. On our wedding day, this entitled mom showed up with her daughter, dressed up in a full-blown white flower girl dress. She marched up to me, demanding that her daughter be included in the ceremony. And when I saw that, I was honestly flabbergasted. My husband and I, along with our wedding planner, tried to reason with her, but she just caused a huge scene. She was saying stuff like, "How could you be so selfish on our wedding day?" while also saying that we were destroying a little girl's dream. Now, my usual quiet mother-in-law had simply had enough at this point. She stepped in and told this entitled mother, in no uncertain terms, that this was our days and it was not her daughter's. She said that if she couldn't respect our wishes, then they would have to leave. Well, when she heard this, she was shocked. She actually tried to argue back, but other family members who were equally fed up with her antics supported my mother-in-law's stance. Realizing that she was outnumbered, this entitled mom left in a huff, with her daughter following in tow. The rest of the wedding went off without a hitch, and everyone had an absolutely great time. We did hear through the grapevine that this aunt complained about us to anyone who would listen, but most of the family knew her history and they took it with a grain of salt. Now, I'm honestly very grateful for my amazing in-laws who stood up for both of us, boosting up my confidence in our marriage's success even more. Wow, that aunt is absolutely out of line. Like, seriously, imagine not taking no for an answer, but also showing up to somebody else's wedding and being like, "Okay, you're gonna let my daughter be your flower girl right now." Like, was she seriously trying to strong-arm her way into getting her daughter into this wedding? Like, any rational adult would look at that and be like, wait a second, this is incredibly intrusive. Like, this is not only incredibly wrong, but also really weird. Like, my secondhand embarrassment would be off the charts if I was there. But honestly, it is really cool to see that your in-laws stepped up and decided that they were not going to let this happen for another second. They clearly know exactly what this aunt is like, and they clearly know how to handle this when things go bad. So honestly, it sounds like you married into a really good family besides this aunt, and hopefully in the future, you don't have to deal with her in this capacity ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not paying the whole cost of a vacation that I was invited to go on, despite the fact that I was never told ahead of time that there would be any cost that I would be responsible for? Because right now, my friend and her mom are calling me a jerk for not paying full price. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So over Christmas break, I was invited to go on a vacation with my friend Jane and her family. Jane is not her real name. Overall, the trip went well. There were 5 of us in total, and we drove to a city about 2 hours away and stayed in an Airbnb for about 5 nights. During the trip, we participated in some activities like rock climbing and horseback riding, as well as a biking tour. We also went hiking as well. However, the night we got back, I was surprised to see a Venmo request for $600 from Jane, all for my portion of the trip. Now, mind you, these costs were not discussed beforehand. I couldn't imagine the activities being this expensive, so I asked for a cost breakdown. In response, Jane and her mom emailed me a spreadsheet of all the costs, which included the trip activities and charges for gas, groceries, and my restaurant meals, but also included my Airbnb cost. In all honesty, I thought charging me for groceries, gas, and the Airbnb was excessive, so I asked Jane if it was possible for her mom to take out these costs. My rationale was that they were going to stay in the Airbnb and travel there regardless, and this is if I came or not. I even shared a bed with Jane, so it's not like I took up a significant amount of space. I also don't have a lot of money saved up since I'm still in high school. Well, Jane Jane's mom said that I need to contribute and pay the full price. And this is where I might be the jerk. I decided to be petty and only send over $500 as I couldn't justify the cost for gas and groceries. Unfortunately, this has strained my relationship with Jane, and we have not hung out since. She thinks I'm a jerk for not paying the full amount and questioning her family on the cost of everything. She said that I embarrassed her and her mom. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk in this scenario. If there were costs associated with this trip, then that definitely should have been articulated well in advance. There is literally no good excuse for any of this, and honestly, the fault falls on Jane and her mom. Like, why would you not tell your teenage friend that, yeah, they're gonna have to pay like, what, $600 for the trip? Like, I don't know about you, but that seems like some very valuable information to know ahead of time. And it's also weird that they're like, yeah, you gotta help pay for the Airbnb, but you didn't even like take up any room. You literally shared a bed with your friend. It all really seems like penny pinching after the fact, and that in my opinion is absolutely obnoxious. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, is Jane really someone you even want to hang out with in the first place? Because honestly, I can absolutely see this happening again. Am I the jerk for not wanting my wife to tell her family about our financial situation? Because right now she has completely spilled the beans, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently found out I will be inheriting some properties and a significant amount of money. I told my wife about it, but made it clear that this is only between us and she is not to tell anyone, especially her big mouth sister. I don't want anyone to know about the inheritance. I don't want them to know that I'm going to invest all of the money and that I'm going to hire a property management company because I intend to keep our current lifestyle. Well, last night at dinner with her parents and siblings, her father congratulated me on the impending windfall, and my brother-in-law pulled me aside to ask about the houses I'll be receiving. He and his wife, and this wife is the big mouth sister, have been saving for a house but haven't saved enough yet, and their credit scores are low. Now, I was very angry with my wife the entire night, but I decided to keep it in check. But on the drive home, I yelled at her. I admit that it wasn't my finest hour, but she did the exact thing I told her not to do. She argued that my secrecy demand was not right and that she had the right and duty to tell her family about our financial situation because it is also her financial situation. We argued for hours, so when I finally had enough, I told her that she can't be trusted to keep our secrets and that I'm not telling her anything else about the inheritance from this minute on. Now, I said that in the heat of the moment, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. She tells her sister everything, and whatever her sister knows, everybody knows. I don't want the entire city to know what's going on with our bank account. We're due to meet our attorney and a financial advisor next week, but I think I will change the appointment to just me. Just to be clear, she's free to discuss anything with her family. I've only had 2 topics where she's not allowed to talk about stuff, and that's namely my health and our finances. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? In my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your wife is completely out of line telling your financial situation to her family. Like, what is she thinking? If you're really inheriting all this money, why would you want family up on your back all the time, making requests from you that you definitely do not want to try and fulfill? It sounds like the original poster is getting a lot of money and a lot of properties, and I know if I was in their shoes, I would want to keep it quiet. Like, I wouldn't want my extended family or my in-laws to know about it, because once they know about it, then everybody's gonna know about it. And I know if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would be so annoyed by this. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your wife made a massive mistake by explaining any of this to her family, because this is only gonna cause headaches for you and her for the rest of your lives. My mom gave up on me when I was 18 years old and moved back to her home country just to spend time with her boyfriend. And now, after nearly a decade, I have finally confronted her about it, and I'm honestly not sure of what to make of my situation. Here's what happened. So when I was a child, my mother and my father had huge arguments. Our house was an absolute nightmare. They both liked to drink and used to drink and have fights at home. My dad even became physical at times with her. They both ended up divorcing, and my mother, my brother, and myself moved out to another house. But here's the thing. My mother was never financially independent. At the beginning, she relied on my father for money, and after divorce, she relied on my brother, who was around 22 back then. Right when I became 18 years old, she found a man in her country and moved back, leaving me with my brother because my father was absent at the time and created a brand new family. I had started working apart from studying at that time, and I tried to live with my brother somehow, but he used to gamble and even sell furniture, apart from not washing his dishes, and just live like a pig. We argued a lot until I told him to leave, and find a new apartment because I couldn't deal with his dirt all the time. So eventually time passed, and I'm 27 now, and for a whole year, my mom underwent a really bad financial situation, with me helping her financially every single month. I went to visit her several times for a short time, and I saw that her drinking habits got quite bad. She drinks at night and she also smokes, which are habits that started irritating me so much that we had fights almost every single day. Once I'm back, she started saying I'm ungrateful, while also saying that I started fights for no reason. She only calls me when she needs something and never calls me to see how I am. On top of that, she told me that if I ever wanted to go and live in her country, I should find a new place since she won't accept me in her house. And it's not like I depend on her. I actually have many skills and I can easily find a job. Apart from studying, I've been taking care of myself since I was 18 years old, and now I have a degree and a master's degree with a proper job. Overall, I just felt terribly disappointed by her. First of all, she left me when I was 18 years old just because she wanted to do her own life and found a boyfriend in her home country and moved back. Then she tells me all of this, and I told her I no longer want her in my life, that the only ungrateful person here is her. When I start telling her the truth, she hangs up and says that she's tired. At some point, I felt like I had a mother, but now I honestly don't. She's been living at her parents' house since she moved back, and she never actually cared about the fact that I was only 18 years old and that I had no father by my side either, and this is when she left me to go live her life. I only had a gambler as a brother, as well as my studies and my job, and I needed her at that time. When I tell her this, she says to me that I'm already an adult, and while my father has been physically absent in my life, he still paid for all of my studies. So honestly, am I wrong in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're wrong at all for confronting your mom about this, because seriously, she does not sound like a good mother. Sure, you were 18 years old, but it really does sound like she kicked you to the curb. Also, she could hook up with this new boyfriend she met in her home country. Like, I can only imagine having literally no one there to help you out and still picking yourself back up and figuring out your life. Like, that honestly sounds awful, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. So truly, with all things considered, I don't blame you for confronting your mom about all of this, because the way she's been acting is incredibly entitled, and in my opinion, I don't think you deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to start using my first name despite the pleas from my family? Because right now, I prefer my middle name and I'm thinking about changing it, and I honestly at this point seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I am named after my grandmother Nancy, who is my mom's mom. There is a bit of a tradition in my family to name the first grandkid of each gender after one of the grandparents of the same gender. I was the first girl, and my mom wanted to follow this tradition, but my dad didn't, so I was named after my mom's mom. My dad chose my middle name of Sky, and ever since I was in kindergarten, I've been using the name Sky instead of Nancy. My family called me Nancy for years anyways, but eventually everybody else would call me Sky when they wanted me. My teachers called me Sky, my friends' parents, our neighbors, our doctor, literally everybody. So eventually my family started to call me Sky as well, and sometimes Nancy would slip in, but I personally never used it. Now, my mom and my grandmother were the people that were most upset. My grandmother, because she felt like she didn't get her grandchild named after her, all because it was never used, and my mom because she wanted the tradition too, but also she doesn't like Sky, and only said yes to it as a middle name because my dad didn't like Nancy and she didn't want to be unfair. Now here's the thing, I have toyed with the idea of changing my name when I turn 18 years old, but it feels like that would be an absolute nightmare. Ever since Christmas, my mom, grandma, and some other family members on my mom's side have suggested that I should use Nancy again. My grandma told me that it would mean a lot to her, and she said I'm getting to an age where the name doesn't seem so bad or old. My mom even told me that Sky isn't really a name I should be going into my adult life using. She said that Nancy will sound much better. She also told me that it is my name, it's my real name, and it would be a pain to use a name that isn't my legal first name as an adult. Other family members said that I should do it to make my grandmother happy, or I should do it because it seems like I'm rejecting my mom, which is really weird to me. My mom and grandmother sat me down last Wednesday and told me that it means so much to them and pleaded with me to go by Nancy. They said I have used Sky for 11 years now, and also said that it might be time to grow up a little and use my name and use the family name. My mom told me it's embarrassing to her because some of her friends have asked why I hate my grandmother or my name so bad that I use my middle name like it's my actual name. But you know what? I told them that I don't want to be called Nancy, and I will not start using it. Instead, instead of Sky. I told them that I am Sky and that it might not be easy for them, but it's what I prefer. And I'm the one living with my name. I am the person who has to introduce myself after all. Now, my dad is on my side and has tried to get my mom to back off, but she has been really unhappy since Wednesday and has been a little bit hostile since my refusal. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. This is honestly so weird. People use their middle name to refer to themselves all the time. They're trying to make it sound like you're disrespecting the family, but honestly, your mom and grandma just need to get over themselves. And for the record, the name Sky is a very normal name. Don't listen to anything they're saying. Like seriously, if you don't want to be called Nancy, then no one can make you be called Nancy. There are plenty of people who have gone through the exact same thing you're describing right now, and the fact that your mom and grandma are trying to make this seem like some outlandish thing is honestly just manipulation on their part, and I would not pay attention to that in the slightest. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your mom and grandma are being incredibly weird and very manipulative, and if you want to be called Sky from here on out, then there's honestly not much they can do to try and stop you. An entitled customer freaks out when he sees that he has to wait in a line of about 150 people just to get a rental car from the airport that we just landed in. And I've honestly never seen a bigger temper tantrum from a grown man in my life. Here's what happened. So this took place in the summer of 2016, and it was the last time I flew on my own dime. My 90-minute flight arrived more than 8 hours late because of weather, and we landed 3 times in random places because our destination was at the center of a curb stomping from the weather gods. Many flights arrived around the same time in the same circumstances. Looking around baggage claim, it was like someone rounded up all the extras from The Walking Dead and got them fresh clothes from Goodwill. So this is where we are, collectively unable to care for another second. I boarded the shuttle to the rental car agency of choice, along with dozens of other poor souls who just wanted their awful compacts to get out of this abysmal place. There was already a considerable line, and the desks were all at full capacity. It looked like some people were making some unexpected overtime because they looked almost half as miserable, albeit still professional, as we do. I mean, nobody wants to be in a big city airport at 3 o'clock in the morning, and no one has done this to anybody else. It just seems like the gods themselves had a party, and everyone here was on cleanup duty. So needless to say, it was absolutely awful. It really sucked. That's when this middle-aged jerk enters the scene. This jerk was a special type of jerk and was the only one here having a bad day. He took one look as he entered and made a noise that caused the majority of people to look up and give him a look that basically said, "What's your problem, buddy?" Well, it turned out that we were his problem. That's when yelling suddenly ensued. Fortunately, the employees who totally get paid enough to deal with the adult-sized child at 3 o'clock in the morning on their day off were the direct target of all that spewed forth from this jerk. We, the offending line, merely caught some of the splatter. And basically, this guy was not going to wait in this line, and that he didn't wait in lines, but instead lines wait on him. This was also 7 years ago, so some of the dialogue has faded from memory, but his mantra throughout all of this was him screeching that he was a preferred customer. Now, where the customer service person had shuffled him off to was definitely at a weird angle. It was inhibiting visibility, but it certainly sounded like he was crying. There were no details on why he was more important than the rest of us, you know, aside from his super shiny preferred status. This continued at various volumes for upwards of almost 20 minutes. During those 20 minutes, one of the desks ended up closing because the fellow working it had to deal with this jerk instead of checking people out and make the line shorter. Well, I want to tell you that it didn't work, but he did end up getting out of there ahead of me. Now, given that option number 2 was to hit him in the head with a shovel, I sort of understood the customer service rep's point of view. I mean, 150 people are too many to keep a secret. But on the plus side, there are now 150 people with his face emblazoned on their memory, who, if they were stumbled upon drowning, they would throw him a cinder block. We were all family at 3 in the morning except for that one jerk. And honestly, I just hope I never have to deal with a preferred customer like that ever again. Wow, that sounds like an obnoxious situation that seriously, I don't know if I would be able to keep my cool in. This guy seriously is walking up on 150 people at 3 in the morning and is then gonna act like he's the most important person on planet Earth. It's like, seriously, buddy, we're all trying to get out of here. No one wants to be at this airport. It's 3 in the morning and we're all miserable. The weather sucks, this line sucks, and pretty much this entire airport sucks. Not to mention the line of people having to be held up, all because this jerk is making a scene. Like, is it really that hard to just get in line and figure it out as you go along? There's a difference between exerting yourself and really making sure you get the customer service you deserve. And then there's this guy who's screaming and crying all because there's a line. And because he was screaming and crying, it screwed it up for everybody else. No one else could get their stuff on time because he pulled one of the people away from their desk. Like, he literally made the problem he didn't like even worse because of his complaining. So truly, I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very unhappy about dealing with this guy at 3 in the morning because honestly, everybody just wants to leave. And this guy freaking out and screaming like the world is ending is definitely not going to make any situation any better. A group of entitled teenagers tried to rob our store, sneaking merchandise into their coffee cups and their backpacks, all under the hope that we wouldn't catch them in the act. But after dealing with so many blatant thieves at our store, me and my manager were ready for just about anything. Because as a result, we caught them red-handed, forcing them to give back all the stuff they tried to steal. Here's what happened. So about a month ago, there was more theft than normal going on in a makeup store that I work at, and it's because of the fact that it was winter break. Unfortunately, when the teenagers in my area get a bit of free time, they feel it's appropriate to use it to come into our store and steal from us. We were finding wrapper after wrapper, box after box stuffed under aisles and in displays. It was really annoying because it reflects really poorly on the hours that we get. Anyways, towards the end of Christmas break, we started to slow down. People had bought all their presents and spent their gift cards, so there wasn't much going on. Well, that is except for this night in question. Me, my manager, and my 2 coworkers were the only employees there. We were only an hour from close, and there was maybe 2 or 3 customers meandering around the store. I was replacing all the trash bags while my coworkers were cleaning up the register area. At my store, it's sort of an unspoken rule that we make a point of greeting every single person who comes through the front doors. So when a group of these 3 teenage girls came through, both my coworkers greeted them. Well, they did what all teenagers who come in to steal do. They don't acknowledge the greeters in hopes of coming off as unapproachable. But my coworkers are seasoned retailers, so they immediately get on the walkie-talkies and alerted me to keep an eye out. My first greeter coworker said to me, "Look, the both of us just said hi to those girls, and they were acting a little bit weird. You might want to stay in that area and keep an eye on them." I said to them that I will, and I'll leave the trash over in the counter and I'll just pick it up later. Now, I didn't want the girls to feel like I was following them just in case we were wrong, and they really just didn't want to be talked to. So I stood in the aisle on the left side of the aisle that they were in. I had a direct view of them, but they would have had to come stand at the very end just to see me. At first, they were just having a bit of fun, spraying our hand sanitizer testers at each other and opening the sugar scrubs to smell them. Nothing that I honestly really care about. But then the sound of crinkling paper made me lean in closer just to see what was going on. I noticed that the girl ripping the packet open was also holding a Starbucks cup, one of the white ones with a flat lid for hot drinks. I watched as she took the hand sanitizer out of its packaging and removed the lid from her drink. I then watched her put the hand sanitizer in the drink cup and then replace the lid, and I knew I was going to have to tell my manager. So I jumped on my walkie-talkie and I said, "Does the manager have a walkie on? Because I just watched one of those girls steal a hand sanitizer." The manager responded in the affirmative and asked where they were. I told them that they were in the bath aisle and that I think they're heading up to the front very soon. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't entirely correct. The girls rounded the corner to the next aisle, which is the one that housed all the hairbrushes. A different girl, who had one of those Loungefly bags, unzipped it and put one of the Harry Potter themed hairbrushes in her bag. I mean, it didn't even zip up all the way. She tried to zip it up hard, but the end of the handle stuck out only slightly. They promptly abandoned that aisle and started making their way to the front of the store. I said to my manager that they're coming up right now. They put something in their drink cup and there's something in their backpack too. Now, we're not allowed to accuse people of stealing. We can get in trouble if we're incorrect, and we're definitely not allowed to hold them back from leaving. So I wasn't sure what my manager could do, but I wanted her to be aware. They made it up to the door when my manager stopped them, asking something she asked everybody who leaves our store empty-handed. The manager then asked the girl if there was something we could help them find today. The first girl said, "No, you guys don't have what we want." My manager responded by saying, "Oh, okay. Well, is there any way I can get back the stuff you took from us? You know, so I don't have to trespass you from the store?" The second girl chimed in and said, "Are you accusing us of stealing? We did not take anything." The manager then said, "I'm not accusing you. I can see one of my hairbrushes sticking out of your friend's bag." The girls all just sort of looked at each other, not sure what to do. Eventually, the girl with the backpack ripped the hairbrush out of it and handed it to the manager. They started to walk past her to the door when the manager stopped them again. She said to them, "Can you please give me back whatever you put in that cup? Then can you please just go?" The girl with the cup huffed and rolled her eyes. Nevertheless, she opened it and took out the hand sanitizer that was now covered in what looked to be hot chocolate or maybe some sugary coffee. coffee. She put it in the manager's hand, and then my manager said, "If you guys come back with your parents, I'm gonna have a talk with them because this is honestly really ridiculous, girls." They all then left really quickly, and we got to go about our business for the rest of the night. And with all the things I've seen at this store, as well as all the people I've seen steal from our store, this definitely could have been a lot worse. Wow, I cannot stand people who steal. It is such a dishonest thing to do, and honestly, I just don't like it. I don't know about you, but for me, whenever I want to buy something, I feel so much better about buying it after I earn it with my own hard work. If it was just handed to me, or if I stole it for some reason, I wouldn't have that same satisfaction of getting it because I worked hard. So whenever I see stories like this, I get really frustrated because it's so annoying that there's dishonest people like this in the world. Like they were totally ready to walk out with all that merchandise. And that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom demands that I give up my seat for her son, claiming that he needs it more than I do, and that I should give it up just to do the right thing. And I'm honestly astonished by this lady's audacity. Here's what happened. So I work in the city, and I usually take the bus home. As anyone who commutes knows, these buses can get packed, especially during the rush hour. On this particular day, I managed to snag a seat, which felt like winning the lottery after a long day at work. I had my earbuds in, and I was half asleep, lost in my music. A few stops into my ride, an entitled mom and her son, who looked to be about 10 years old, got on the bus. It was clear from the get-go that there were no seats available, but that didn't stop this entitled mother from scanning the bus like she was on a mission. She then locked eyes with me and beelined in my direction. Now, the entitled mother's tone was more demanding than polite. She said to me, "Excuse me, could you let my son sit down? He's really tired from his day and he needs to sit." Now, I was surprised that she singled me out, since there were other people, even some elderly, standing as well. I was about to respond, maybe even stand up, despite feeling exhausted myself, when a very helpful lady nearby spoke up. She said in a kind but firm tone, "Ma'am, it's not right to single out someone for their seat. We are all tired after a long day, so perhaps your son can manage standing for just a little bit." Well, after she heard this, the entitled mother's face turned a shade of red. She responded and said, "But he is just a child and children need to sit. It's common courtesy." The bus at this point was unusually silent, with everyone seemingly tuned into our conversation. But the helpful woman from earlier, undeterred, replied and said, "I understand, but so do the elderly, the disabled, and those who have had long days at work. We can't expect others to always give up their comfort for us. It's a valuable lesson in consideration and patience." The entitled mother looked ready to argue more, but seemed to realize that the bus audience wasn't on her side. She muttered something under her breath about rude people and then moved slightly away, still standing up. The rest of the ride was uneventful, but the atmosphere felt a bit charged. When my stop arrived, I got up and I passed the helpful lady from earlier. She gave me a small smile and a nod, as if to say that you did the right thing. I nodded back in gratitude, feeling relieved but also a bit surprised at how the situation unfolded. This is a really fun story for a few reasons, but my favorite reason is the fact that the original poster was not alone in realizing that this situation was ridiculous. Like seriously, the entitled mom in this story was completely out of line. They 100% singled out the original poster for some weird reason and decided for some reason that they're gonna take their seat. And it's like, seriously, that is so annoying. It would have been just as easy to stand there and wait for your stop instead of making a scene and making literally everything so awkward. So good for the original poster for not only having backup in that situation, but also in a roundabout way standing your ground, because the way that entitled mom was acting was really uncalled for. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be super annoyed with her attitude. My husband has thrown me under the bus to his family with his silence and complete lack of spine. And at this point, after dealing with so much drama, I'm now unsure of how to move forward. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for years, but with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but my husband's family is against it, and has also influenced my husband to also be against it. After our second year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us were infertile. He was strongly opposed to this, as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in, and as it turns out, his count, if you know what I mean, is extremely low. He was as heartbroken as I was, and we then both got into therapy. After a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant, but we lost the baby, and we were absolutely devastated. My husband blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center, also that we could find a donor. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this, or even our friends, and I agreed, because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant, and we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every single day. I kept my promise and I never told anyone. However, my husband is struggling with connecting with our little girl. Now here is where the trouble begins. It all started last month when he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party. While on the trip, my husband told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who also told my husband's mother. Now, I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother, except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying jerk and tried to get my husband to leave with her. Well, he just stood there silent. I told her that it was my husband's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if that was true again, but he was just silent, which his mother took as me being a liar. So she then went to our nursery and started taking everything that she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it, and I made more than enough to buy everything she gave us myself, and I could get it in better quality. This set her off, and she called my baby a terrible name. And when she said this, I did something I know was harsh, but I believe that she deserved it. I physically pushed her out of the door. I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out of the door, and I threw all her awful things out with her. After spirits had calmed down, I realized that my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, as well as her calling me a liar. And when she called our child that awful name, I asked him why he was silent, and he said that he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way that I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true. She was just hurtful with what she said, and that we should just let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, and that his mother and anyone else who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his, and as the head of the family, it was his decision. I told him fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar, as well as a jerk, if those things are not true? And our child should never be called the names that she said. He just repeated that he would not argue with his mother. After that, I stopped speaking with him, and I started gathering up my daughter's things and my purse, and I walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me that I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and at that moment, I lost a little bit of composure. I told him that she wasn't his daughter. He'd proved that he didn't see her as a daughter when he had allowed his mother to call her such awful names, and I told him that she wasn't his. He then broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside, but at the time, I felt nothing. He just looked incredibly pathetic to me. I've now taken my baby with me, and I've gone back to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which really feels good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or to even set the record straight with his family. However, I told the sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding, while the other half is on his mother's side, but they are all mad at my husband. I need time to cool off, but I know eventually my husband and I will need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain though, is that I will not return to his house until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action form, starting with him telling his mother what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asked for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children as he wants a big family, but that is now off the table as I don't believe he is ready and we both need to get back into therapy. So I'm honestly just blown away by all of this and I seriously don't know what to do. I think you perfectly described your husband as spineless because that is exactly what he is. This guy stood there and let his mother scream at you and your baby, calling her awful names, all because the both of you agreed to have a donor. And yes, the both of you did agree to that. This wasn't a one-sided decision. This literally took the both of you to figure this out. So the fact that he threw you under the bus and tried to make this seem like this was all your decision and that you somehow forced him into agreeing to this is honestly so disgusting. Like your husband is a massive jerk and there is no excuse for his behavior. So honestly, I wish you the best of luck moving forward because your husband is an absolute piece of garbage. And the fact that he allowed this all to happen to you is honestly completely unacceptable. My sister-in-law rolled her eyes at me when my husband took me to the hospital for a medical emergency. And right now I am feeling so angry at her reaction. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. do. Okay, so to start things out, my sister-in-law absolutely hates me. I don't know why, but she just always has. It is so obvious and everybody can tell. Even my own husband, and even before we got married. I swear, she's the type of sister who is in love with her brother or something like that. It freaks me out, and I've dealt with her attitude and being the bigger person now for almost 5 years. So she came and stayed at our house this weekend because my brother-in-law is getting married, and she lives a state away. We were nice enough to let her stay with us instead of a hotel, as we do have a big house and it wasn't really an issue. I'm also, for the record, 31 weeks pregnant. My sister-in-law came on Thursday and the wedding was today. On Friday night, I started to have some really bad stomach cramps, and I really felt like I needed to vomit. This isn't really news to me. I've dealt with hyperemesis gravidarum my whole pregnancy, which honestly really sucks. I ended up calling it an early night, while my husband, my sister-in-law, and a few friends hung out in our living room and backyard. Well, at around 1:00 a.m., my husband came to bed when everybody was gone. He woke me up, and that's when the vomiting started. Again, not abnormal, but I noticed there was blood in the vomit. I immediately started crying, and my husband wanted to take me to the emergency room. Well, my sister-in-law woke up hearing my husband's keys and asked me what was wrong. I explained what happened, and I kid you not, this woman rolls her eyes and walks back to bed. Even though she didn't say anything, it's been eating me up for days. The whole wedding, all I could think of was how much of a jerk she is. I want her gone as soon as possible. I even want to call her out. And I want to do this so badly, but I don't want to be a jerk. I mean, how would you handle this? Would you call her out or would you let it go? She does live a state away, so I hardly even see her anymore. I want so bad to be the bigger person, but at this point, I don't know if I can. My husband says to just be the bigger person, as he doesn't really like her either, so we don't see her much. But it would just feel so good to me and my pregnancy hormones to tell her to shove it. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your sister-in-law is a giant jerk. That really is unacceptable, and seriously, I don't blame you for being upset. I know if I was in your shoes and I was going through all of that in the middle of the night, I would be furious the next day having to deal with her. Here you are opening up your home so that she doesn't have to stay at a hotel, and then she really has the audacity to be like, oh wow, the pregnant woman who's feeling sick is going to the hospital. It's like, lady, what are you talking about? I'm throwing up in a way that's not normal and I'm pregnant. Like, that really does not seem like an overreaction in the slightest. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be telling the husband that no, I don't want her at the home anymore. Like, I completely understand where your husband's coming from, or even where you're coming from, where you're like, listen, I don't want to make a big deal and I just want to be the bigger person. But in my opinion, that can only go so far. Like, I can understand that every now and then, but this lady disrespected you in your own home. Like, that is not okay, and in my opinion, that should not happen again. And hopefully, for the sake of you and your husband, you never have to deal with her in this capacity ever again. My new job is treating me terribly, constantly treating me like garbage, as well as practically pushing me out of my job. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I currently work in an Italian fine dining establishment as a server. Previous to this, I worked as a bartender and server. I managed some restaurants over the years as well, and bounced around quite a bit over the years due to moving towards the greater Boston area. In late October, a former coworker coerced the owner of his restaurant to reach out to me because they were in dire need of help for the holiday season, and my friend recommended me even though I was managing at the time. This owner called me and practically begged me to come work there and gave me an ultimatum that if I didn't take the job at the time, it wouldn't be there. He promised me that I would fit right in and that money would be great immediately when I started. Well, fast forward to when I started, and I was essentially treated like garbage by my coworkers, and my managers follow a server hierarchy. Servers that have been there for years consistently get the best tables nonstop and literally leave with $800 to $1,200 every night on a regular basis. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with lesser tables consistently, and I have to fight to make $300 to $400 per night. And these servers put in the bare minimum. They show up 30 minutes late, and they do no side work at all. They are extremely greedy, and if they know that you've got a good table, they then tell the owner, whom they're very close with. As time went on, I voiced my frustration regarding this due to the fact that the owner reached out to me randomly one day and asked me to come and work there, and that I left a management position for this. Well, when said owner heard this, he came back from his home in Florida and basically told us that he is only required to take care of his essential family, and that people like me will just get what they get. Some people have tried to help me make more money, considering I have my first child due in May, but unfortunately, I don't think it's on par with how hard I work and how I am being treated, and essentially, me showing any any kind of concern is being chalked up to me being a jerk. A week ago, the owner called me and told me that I was going to be let go because there wasn't enough hours for the less busy season. But I insisted that he let me keep my job because of my child that is coming. Eventually, he let in, but now I just dread going there. The only thing keeping me going there is the real potential that somebody will quit and I can bump up to be one of those servers. Is there any way to circumvent any of this? Or should I try to find something better? What should I do? Okay, the fact that the owner said, hey, I'm gonna fire you, and you basically had to beg him to keep your job should be enough of a sign to you that no, this is not a place you want to keep working at. First of all, this guy was absolutely talking out of his rear end when he was telling you that, oh yeah, the money's gonna be great. You're gonna make so much money, it's not even gonna be a problem. But then, as soon as you start, reality sets in, and you can obviously tell that this guy was straight up lying to you. It is really not fair, and it's downright disrespectful, especially because you now know this guy's true colors, and he has shown his hand. Because you're not someone that he considers family, he's just gonna let you fall by the wayside and only care about the people he's been with forever. Like, this owner does not care about you in the slightest, and the sooner you realize that, the easier it's gonna be to find another job. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, because the way you're being treated is unacceptable, and you absolutely deserve a lot better than this awful place. An entitled couple make my life a living nightmare, as I have the misfortune of serving them for our Sunday rush. But after watching them bicker and scream at me about their food, as well as making everybody in the restaurant uncomfortable, this entitled couple top it all off by not even tipping me. And honestly, at this point, I'm so done with people like this at my job. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story happens months ago on a Sunday, and this is when we had a church crowd in our restaurant. This couple sat in my section and immediately asked for plastic utensils and that their drinks should be in to-go cups. Now, I already knew that they were that kind of customer, but I still carried on like normal. Now, let me just tell you, they were as high maintenance as you could possibly get. They requested that their waffles be nice and light, but their bacon couldn't be too crispy. They wanted their eggs light but not too runny, as well as several other specific instructions. So I called in their order and I started making their waffles. But before anything else could get started, one of the servers told me that table 20 wants to talk to me. And as you might guess it, it's the couple in question. Now, at this point, I was wondering why on earth they would even want to talk to me. Well, they wanted to know if one of the grill cooks who usually makes their food is in the restaurant. And by the way, these are not regular customers. They didn't even know the cook's name, only a vague description. Well, I told them that the grill cook in question is off on weekends, but that our current cook and manager can cook without any issues. But apparently that wasn't good enough, because they demanded to have their cook. I repeated what I just said, and then apologized and walked away from them. Because honestly, like, what do they expect me to do? Call the grill cook to come in on her day off and cook for that one table only? I mean, that is absolutely not gonna happen. So fast forward to about 15 minutes later, and as I'm giving them their food, they immediately started picking at their food like Gordon Ramsay, and I already knew that they were gonna find something to complain about, so I just stuck around and watched. But honestly, I wish I didn't. They said that the toast is too soggy and that the eggs are too runny. Also, the waffles are too dark, and my favorite complaint is that the grits were too gritty. Now, perhaps the eggs are too runny from the extra cheese, and the toast might be soggy from the butter, and sure, the waffles are golden instead of pasty like Edward Cullen, but the grits being too gritty? Like, are these people being real right now? So, as you can probably guess, they wanted to speak to the manager. I told them it's gonna be a minute because he's on the grill and we're in the middle of a rush. The entitled Karen of this couple then shouted out that they are not gonna pay for any of this garbage. Well, when she shouted that out, that got the manager's attention, and he went to the table to talk to them real quick. Now, there was no convincing them to allow the kitchen to remake their food, so the manager gave them a discount and told me that everything is fine. Yeah, right, nothing's fine about these people. They are still nitpicking and just complain about how long it took their food to be ready, as well as how loud it is in the restaurant, despite the fact that we're in the middle of a rush. Now, at this point, I was just done with them, and I just dropped off their discounted check and I just walked away. I didn't even bother to follow up with them. I just wanted them to leave so I can turn the table for the next party. And of course, the icing on top of everything, they didn't even leave me a tip. But honestly, I could care less, as long as they leave and hopefully never come back. Like, how in the world do you go to church and then pull up to my job with that kind of attitude? I mean, don't they teach you anything at church? Perhaps I should let your pastor know how you've been acting after church and make them use you as an example for next week's sermon, because honestly, I'm just so done with people like this. Wow, that honestly is so annoying, and I can only imagine how frustrating that is, especially on a Sunday. Like, it's already super busy on Sunday and everybody's coming out of church and they want something to eat, and then you have this couple coming in here and acting like complete fools. Like, this kind of entitlement to just cause problems for like no reason, it really is just uncalled for and just not fair for the server. Like, they're literally getting the blunt end of the stick for something that is not their fault. And I'm also willing to bet that their food was just fine. I'm sure there was nothing actually wrong with it, and they were just acting super entitled because their favorite cook wasn't at the restaurant. So honestly, I think you handled it as well as you possibly could, despite the fact that these people didn't even tip you at the end. But for the sake of your sanity, as well as everybody else's at the restaurant, I truly hope those people never come back. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My family absolutely hates my boyfriend, and they are actively trying to convince me to break up with him. But even though I love him and I really care about him a lot, I still feel so torn between my family and my boyfriend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with this guy for about 9 months, but we've only been dating for about 3 months officially. And trust me when I say this, but my family absolutely hates him. One of the main factors is that he is living with his mom and best friend. He pays rent to his mother and works a minimum wage job. He has 1 DUI and is working on probation. He does work and pay his bills, but my family doesn't believe that we're on the same path. And this is because I have a degree and I'm working a corporate job. I really do love him, and he has been very kind to me with some fights here and there, and I think that his family dynamic is a bit different than my family. I told my mom that money isn't everything to me, and we could make ends meet, but she has been divorced twice, and told me that she doesn't want me to go down that road. She even keeps trying to find guys for me to talk to while I am still in this relationship. They talk down to him a lot, calling him fat and ugly behind his back. It's overall just low blows. The only time I can ever think of them being happy in my relationship was when I dated people that they chose for me, like a family friend or something like that. It's always been farmer dudes and Texas guys. It's never really been my type, and those relationships have always failed. My mom would even blame me for the relationship failing when it was forced upon me. But when it comes to all the relationships that I have ever wanted, they always made fun of them in some kind of way. But with this guy, he does have a DUI and doesn't really have any kind of life goals. I don't know if my mom is projecting or if she has a right to be concerned. I am clouded by love right now, and I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, so from my point of view, and I don't want to like offend you or anything like that, but this guy doesn't sound like a catch. He doesn't sound like somebody I would ever like sacrifice portions of my life just to be with. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you don't love the guy, and it does sound like you have a good relationship with him, but this guy just doesn't sound responsible at all. The fact that he has a DUI is more than enough reason for me to be like, wait a second, I don't know if I want to be with this guy, because that is unbelievably reckless, and there is hardly any excuse for that, other than him just being neglectful in the worst possible way. And I don't know about you, but that just does not settle well with me. He also has no career ambitions or life goals, and it seems like he's really content working minimum wage, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you would think that your boyfriend would want to make more money. Minimum wage as an adult is not workable. You cannot make a living doing that, and honestly, it just doesn't work. So truly, I wish you the best of luck in figuring this out, because from the outside looking in, this guy does not sound like a winner. My mom changed her mind at the last second, not allowing me and my boyfriend to sleep in the guest bedroom that we had been planning on staying in. And now, for the sake of my own sanity during this family get-together, I'm considering getting a hotel room just so I can have some peace and quiet, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I moved 600 kilometers away from my family for my master's degree a few months ago. In February, my family plans a get-together, and my sister and I are staying with my family for about 10 days, and my mom invited her friends over for about 5 of those days, with me also planning on bringing my boyfriend. Well, about 2 weeks ago, my mom called me and we discussed the sleeping arrangements for the get-together. My sister will be staying with her boyfriend since he lives not far away from my parents' house, and so I asked if my boyfriend and I could sleep in the guest room. My parents' house isn't too big, and the guest room in the attic is the only possibility where you have your own bathroom and a little bit of privacy when the house is full of people. My mom agreed and said that she will ask her friend to stay in a hotel nearby during the time of her visit. I was glad about that since I have university stuff to do, and I need some quiet space to work on it during my visit. Now, fast forward to yesterday, and my mom informed me that her friend doesn't want to stay in a hotel, so she, the friend, will sleep in the guest bedroom. Now, my sister and I are supposed to sleep in my sister's old room all the way up until her friend leaves. Then we're supposed to clean up after her friend, change the bed sheets and get it tidy, just so we can sleep in the guest bedroom for the rest of our stay. The thing is, my sister's old room is right next to our parents' bedroom. My parents snore a lot, and my father is a very light sleeper and gets super grumpy whenever he's woken up by any noise. My boyfriend and I wanted to visit some friends during our stay, as well as going to some parties while we're there, so we would definitely be coming home late some nights. So we would have to be practically noiseless while getting ready for bed these nights. Also, we would have to share a bathroom with my parents for almost a week, and I don't want to put my boyfriend in this position. My sister's room also doesn't have a proper desk where I could work on, and I would have no quiet space for working on my university stuff because it's literally in the middle of the house. I was honestly a little flabbergasted when my mom told me that because we had agreed on us sleeping in the guest bedroom before. I reminded her of what we discussed, and she basically shrugged and just said, "Oh, it's just a few days." I'm just so tired of putting up with her garbage because that's not the first time that she's done something like that. I'm almost always the first person that has to budge when she's making plans, and she doesn't even seem to recognize that. I was already thinking about booking a hotel room for the duration of her friend's visit, though I know if I did, my family would throw a temper tantrum about me being unreasonable and spoiled, and would continually be asking me why I couldn't sleep in my sister's room. Also, a hotel room would be quite pricey. On the other hand, I'm super angry because my mom expects me to budge again, as well as expecting me to clean up after her friend. So honestly, where do I go from here? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, it really sounds like your mom has already made her decision, and it really sounds like she does not want to prioritize you in the slightest. And that really is not fair because she's really putting you in a weird position. Now, if you didn't have the university work that you needed to get done, then I would say just sleep in the sister's bedroom and just kind of deal with it. But because you need a quiet space to get stuff done, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get the hotel room. Like, if I was in your shoes, that would be my main excuse. If anybody even began to complain about me, I would just be like, look, I've got to get stuff done for college. This house is way too noisy. I can't get this done in this setting. And that's honestly all you need to say to these people. And you know what? If they want to throw a temper tantrum, then honestly let them. You've got a lot of stuff you need to do. And it sounds like your sister's bedroom is not going to be an accommodation you can even consider. So hopefully you can figure out a solution that works best for you specifically, because your mom definitely made her choice. And I think it's time that you make yours. My entitled friends failed to show up when it counted, and instead of visiting me when I was in the hospital, they chose to stay home, all because they were too drunk to visit me in the first place. So I decided to cut them out of my life, and honestly, that's the best decision I've ever made in my life. Here's what happened. About 10 years ago, I broke my ankle in a pothole, helping my then best friend move out of our apartment. 3 months after the break, doctors discovered that I had a bone infection, and I would possibly need my leg amputated. At the hospital for the infection, I was scared and really needed my friends. I asked my childhood girlfriends to please visit me as I was going into surgery every other day, and I was terrified I'd wake up from surgery without my leg. I had been in the hospital for over a week, and only a few college friends came to visit, and some of them even without me asking. All of my childhood friends planned to visit together, but when the day came along, one by one, I received texts from each of them bailing because they didn't feel well. They all went out partying the night before, they got too drunk and were too hungover to visit me. You see, the reason my best friend moved out was because she and the others prioritized partying, doing substances, sleeping around with random dudes, and were just overall very selfish human beings. I had moved on from the partying lifestyle, and whenever I suggested that we do other activities, they would just say no. Besides that, my best friend was a terrible roommate. She never paid rent on time, she let my cat out of the apartment, and she was just an overall slob. So my relationship with her and the others had become very rocky. I had talked with them before my ankle break about how sad I was with our relationship, and they all said that they'd try harder. Then came my injury and they all just bailed on me. Well, as a result, I cut ties with all of them. They begged me to forgive them, and our mutual friends who live out of state even begged me to forgive them. They would say stuff like, "You've been friends since preschool, can't you just let it go?" But I thought to myself, no, I can't. This is the last straw. For several years, I would see them at mutual friends' weddings and high school reunions, and I tried to just remain pleasant. My favorite thing to do is be withholding when they try asking how I am, as well as give me compliments and all this other stuff, but I would refuse to reciprocate. You can see the desperation in their eyes that they want me to love them again. Even one of the girls' mothers admitted to how stupid their daughter treated me, so I guess I did find some kind of validation after all. Now, some of our mutual friends are finally realizing how toxic these women are, and they are finally cutting ties as well. But I just smile and think to myself, myself, well, I told you so. Just because you've known someone since you were children, it does not mean you need them in your life as an adult. So I've learned to keep the ones that show up in the worst of times, because I would much rather have quality over quantity. That is so true, and that is such a good life lesson to learn. Seriously, all these friends had to do was show up at the hospital, and literally there wouldn't be a problem in the slightest. But instead, they got way too drunk and they ruined it for everybody. Not only for the original poster, but also for themselves. And you know what? It takes a lot of guts to stand up like that and cut these people off. Like, I'm convinced that the original poster definitely stood alone, and they literally had to do that on their own with nobody else to support them. So truly good for them for taking a stand and not let these toxic friends take advantage of their friendship ever again. My boyfriend wants to make a career switch that could force me to drop out of college, and after waiting 10 years just to even start my degree, I'm now at such a crossroads as I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been together since we were 15 and 17 years old. We had our first child shortly thereafter, and since then we've had 2 more children. Ever since the first child, he asked me to stay at home so he could work, and I agreed. On top of him working, I was a nanny to his sister's kids, who were living with grandma for 10 years while mom was in and out of jail. I had them about 13 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the income from that brought in enough money to pay our mortgage. Well, over the last 13 years, I have had a few odd jobs that I attempted to work, but every time something would happen with his job, whether it be a career change or him having to work more overtime, it always resulted in me having to go home and watch the kids because he couldn't get off and relieve the sitter, so I would inevitably have to resign. But I did take this in stride because he was the one that brought in the larger income, despite the fact that these resignations and years of no job history, other than being a family nanny, has made me virtually useless to the workforce on paper. But I held out because he always said that when all 5 kids were in school, I'd be able to go to college. Well, that was this year. All 5 kids went to school, and I pulled from being our niece and nephew's nanny because their mom regained custody this year as well. But the minute I enrolled into school, it seems like all the garbage hit the fan all at once. Before I even started my first day, my boyfriend comes out of nowhere saying that he wants to go to college at the same time as me. His job offers a college program, and at the end of the 2-year program, you would move up and make a few more dollars an hour, and you would still be paid. The problem being was that the pay and hours would be much less than he's already making. So I would have had to start working to supplement the missing income. Now, I begged him not to do it. I have no idea what ignited this for him. We've been together since we were teenagers, and he has never really wanted to go to college, and he already makes well over $100,000 a year. He kept pushing, but eventually his mom and sisters caught wind and forced him back down, stating that it's my turn, that I held back to support his career for years, and that he can go to school when I finish. They said that this opportunity of schooling will always be free and available to him, and eventually he let it go. However, he has started back up, but this time he wants to switch to a different company in the same field of work, saying that he'd make more money at this new company. But that is subject to change. He could make more at this company because their incentive is so high, and incentives work like this. The entire company makes 30% of the production rate, so if the company produced $100,000 worth of product, they would receive $30,000, and it would be split and distributed amongst employees. That being said, it's 30% right now, and it could very well drop to 2% or even nothing in the next month or 2. If he switches jobs, he'll start at the bottom of the ladder again, doing the grunt work of the mill and making less hourly. Right now, he's in a comfortable position and has a good amount of free time where he can sit in his office and watch movies or sleep. This new position would require him to do 3 times as much labor, all with a chaotic schedule. And since the company is far larger than his current one, it would take him years to move back up to where he is now. He confronted me last night asking why I don't support this, and I told him I just want him to stay put so it doesn't interfere with my schooling. His income and his schedule are just too unpredictable. I mean, honestly, I don't get it. For 13 years, I supported his careers, as well as every other change he's ever made, even if this meant we went a month without income while we waited on his first check while we moved. I had taken on extra kids to pull and supplement income, and he frequently changed jobs. My schooling has not interfered with his schedule at all. I still make sure that I'm home early to get the kids off the bus. I get up the earliest daily to make breakfast and get the kids to school. I still make dinner every single day, and I pack his lunch. I still do a majority of the household chores, and I'm the one who calls off to take the kids to appointments. I have ensured my schedule has not forced him into any more work. I only go to school when the kids are at school, and the only changes have been the homework that I do when he's home, and I'm just a little bit more tired than usual. All that I'm asking is that he sits still and let me focus on myself. I've waited over a decade so that we could focus on him and the kids, and I have rarely complained. All I want is to finish this degree in 3 years. That way I can have a stable job and help provide. But it seems like he is doing everything he can to put the focus back on himself. All this said, if the incentive at this other company stayed up, he could potentially make more. So should I back down and support this switch for him? Or should I stand my ground and ensure my schooling comes first this time? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your boyfriend is being incredibly selfish right now. You said it best. You have spent the last 10 years helping him out and making sure that his job succeeds in some kind of way. So with that in mind, I don't blame you for stepping up and being like, wait a second, it's definitely my turn. Because it is your turn. There's no reason why he can't just stay the course for a few more years, and then if he really wants to go back to school, then he can do that. But it kind of feels like he's only doing this because you're doing it right now, instead of him actually wanting to do it in some kind of way. So hopefully this gets worked out, and I really hope you're able to finish your degree. Because right now your boyfriend is being incredibly selfish, and I don't blame you for being upset in the slightest. My entitled sister-in-law decides not to invite me specifically to her wedding, as she claims that I'm an unpleasant person to be around, and that I'm just a spoiled brat, as well as the reason for all of my sister-in-law's problems in her life. But after my husband and the rest of my extended family found out about this situation, they all decided not to come to the wedding either. And now my sister-in-law is blaming all of this on me. And at this point, I am so blown away by her entitlement for her to blame me for something that I didn't even do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 3 kids. Our oldest one is 7 years old, then we have a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old baby. And my husband's sister is the one getting married. Our relationship with her isn't so great. She is always making unnecessary comments, and I know that she dislikes me a lot. She didn't like me from the first time my then boyfriend introduced us together, and then when I got pregnant, I was still in school and my boyfriend had just started college. He ended up dropping out, and we needed a lot of support from our families to settle down back then. So my sister-in-law thinks that I messed up her brother's life and her family's life because I didn't get rid of my baby at the time, if you know what I mean. She has always been rather hostile. We mostly only see her at family gatherings, and she doesn't visit or anything like that, and honestly, that's probably for the best. She has caused problems before because she says that my husband was the golden child and she was the scapegoat. And then when I got pregnant, their parents basically adopted me and spoiled me because I was with my husband. So with that background in mind, here's what's happening. She recently sent out invitations for her wedding. She sent my husband his invitation, which had his name and our 3 kids' names, but it did not include mine. My husband asked her about this, and she said that I'm not a pleasant person to be around, so I'm not going to be invited. He told her that is extremely disrespectful since I'm his wife, and they argued a bit about it through text messaging, with my husband eventually telling her to not count on him or the kids being there because they are absolutely not going. She then blamed it on my husband being immature, and my in-laws tried to mediate between them, but she replied to them saying that she's not surprised they're taking our side. They got into an argument, and my in-laws said that since she's having this attitude, they're not showing up to the wedding either. Well, as you might guess, immediately afterwards, she started blaming me. She said that this is all my fault because I could have just accepted that I'm not invited and allow my husband and children to exist without me for a couple of hours. She also called me stupid and uneducated, as well as spoiled, and that I have princess syndrome. I told this to my husband and his parents, and they told some other family members, and now apparently a lot of them canceled their assistance as well. And throughout all of this, she just keeps blaming all of it on me. And sure, I didn't tell my husband to go, I will admit that, so I think that's why I'm possibly a jerk here, because I could have prevented such a big drama, but I decided not to. But also, I think she's a bigger jerk in general. And in this case, she definitely might be the jerk for expecting my husband to be okay with leaving me behind. So honestly, I need to know, am I somehow the jerk and the person to blame for all of this going wrong for my sister-in-law? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your sister-in-law sounds absolutely obnoxious. First of all, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your sister-in-law didn't invite you on purpose, and she was somehow expecting you to just be okay with it? Like seriously, what was she thinking? Did she really think that your husband was gonna be like, oh, that's okay, I'll just go without you? Like there's clearly been like this long history of animosity from this sister-in-law, and she's always been this massive thorn in your side, even at family gatherings and other events, and she's constantly been blaming you for all kinds of like problems in her life. So the fact that this blew up in her face, and then she turned around and tried try to blame it on you after you just didn't do anything about it, in my opinion, is showing her true colors. Everybody is seeing on full display exactly how she is. And that is no fault of your own. You didn't do anything. And it's also super insulting because this wasn't up to you to say anything about it. Like, she made the decision of not inviting you. And she did that almost under the assumption that you would make sure that this would be okay. As if you're supposed to coordinate with her to make sure that your husband goes to this wedding. Like, I don't know about you, but if someone slaps me in the face, I'm not about to help them with anything in their life. So truly, your sister-in-law is incredibly toxic. I am so sorry that you're dealing with this, but thankfully, everybody in the family is seeing exactly how she really is. So I think, if anything, that might be the best silver lining to come out of this entire scenario. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend hasn't held a job in over 2 years, and at this point, I'm getting incredibly frustrated. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I have been dating for just over 2 years. 1 year in, we decided to move in together and signed a lease. I had concerns prior to signing because I had noticed that she tends to job hop quite a bit, but it seemed like she had a reason for leaving each job, and since she doesn't have a college degree, I assumed it wasn't such a big deal. Lower wage jobs do tend to have a lot of turnover, and I've worked them extensively myself, and they do in fact suck a lot. But it has started to become such an issue that I'm reconsidering our entire relationship, which is otherwise going really well. In the 2 years that we've been dating, she hasn't held a single job for more than 1 or 2 months at most. Most jobs she only keeps for a few weeks, and this has become weirdly obvious when 14 W-2s showed up in the mail. It's now stressing me out because she's once again getting ready to walk out on another job, and I don't have the means to provide for the both of us every single time she finds herself dissatisfied at work. I feel bad because last year I had to take a 3-month medical leave after a freak accident at my work, during which time I was unpaid because they inexplicably denied my short-term disability due to a technicality, so she was holding down the fort. Though she left her job towards the end of my intensive treatment, she did help me with a lot of financial things during that time. I went back to work part-time in the last 3 weeks of treatment, and she was unemployed through the last month of my treatment and through the holidays for almost 2 whole months. And this left me to shoulder the full cost of rent for 1 month, which she had done the months before, but I wasn't back to full-time work and I ended up accruing some debt. Whenever I bring up financial concerns, she circles back to this period and how draining it was for her to have supported me, which, to be fair, neither of us are exactly millionaires out here, and our area is very expensive. Her job hopping is to the point now where she is having difficulty getting hired in our area, and I cannot convince her that this has anything to do with the fact that she has left so many jobs and burned so many bridges that people might be aware that she's a job hopper, and that's all before she even gets in the door. She airbrushes her resume and is convinced that no one could possibly know her actual work history. Every little thing will set her off about a job and then she'll leave. She feels disrespected by a lack of response to emails, or they are being condescending in training, and then she'll walk right out over it. I feel bad because she certainly hasn't had an easy life, so it sounds super condescending when I try to tell her that every job has drawbacks, but we all have to work. I don't know how to communicate that in a way that doesn't make her feel defensive. I would otherwise call this woman the love of my life, but I don't know if I can deal with the financial stress and instability of being partnered with someone who can't and won't hold down a job. We can't budget, we can't save any money for trips, we can't work on our long-term financial goals because her pay is constantly unknown. How can I wake her up to how weird it is to bounce around like that and convince her to commit to something? Or should I take this as an exit cue? In her early 20s, she had a pretty bad injury at work, and I think she just never recovered her work ethic and feels very triggered by the work environment. I have tried to convince her to talk to someone about it, but she always pulls back and says that she can't afford it. Her job hopping has left her almost perpetually without health insurance, so we would have to pay out of pocket for any mental health stuff. I'm honestly feeling so frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Like, here you are just trying to find some kind of financial stability in your life, and your girlfriend can't hold down a job. Not because she's not qualified, but because of the fact that she just can't enjoy anything about her job. She takes everything so personally, and then she's like, okay, I quit. And that is seriously not a good way to handle any job in the slightest. Don't get me wrong, if the job sucks, then sure, you should definitely get out of there. Usually you can tell when a job environment is super toxic and this is not a place you want to work, but I would argue for the most part that most jobs, at least for the first 6 months, can at least be bearable to some degree. And of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but I would like to believe out of the 14 jobs that she applied for, there had to have been at least one that she could stick out, even just to make a paycheck and make ends meet. Because getting 14 W-2s in the mail, that honestly is insane to me. That is way too many jobs in 1 year, and she's only holding those jobs for 1 to 2 months at most. Eventually, people are gonna catch on in the community and in the area that you do hop out of jobs almost immediately after you get hired. And these are people who are in their 30s, by the way. The girlfriend in the story is 32 years old, and she is still job hopping. That honestly is not a good sign in my opinion, and I completely understand where the original poster is coming from when they are literally worried about this. So honestly, in my opinion, it's time for something to change. Otherwise, this is gonna be a mess later on in life. Because the original poster has it right. They literally can't plan for anything financially in their future, especially if his girlfriend can't keep a job, which is in and of itself, in my opinion, incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for being irritated with my parents after they took my car out for a drive without my permission, all while I was overseas and out of town? Because right now they are completely dodging the issue, and I seriously feel like I'm being gaslit, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I was overseas last month, and I gave my parents my car and house keys in case of an emergency. They asked me if I wanted to leave my car at their house while I was away, and I said no. My reason was that I didn't want them driving my car at their leisure just because I was away from my home, and I suspected that would happen if it was parked on their property. So I left my car parked in my apartment block for the duration of my trip. Well, when I got back, I noticed that my car was very clean, which wasn't its state before my trip. I didn't think much of this until I had a light bulb moment at my parents' house and realized they must have taken it. So I asked my mom, "Mom, why is my car so clean?" She responded by saying, "Your dad wanted to be kind and cleaned your car for you while you were away. We also thought it wasn't good that your car sat in the heat all day." I responded by saying, "Did you drive it while I was away?" My mom then said, "No, Dad obviously had to fetch it, but he walked to your flat and drove it home." Now, at this point, I didn't believe them, and I made up this next part of the conversation just to call their bluff. I responded by saying, "Interesting. Well, I noticed the odometer is up about 20 kilometers since my trip." My mom and dad took a very long pause, and then my mom responded by saying, "Well, we fetched another person for dinner on the way home, but that was all." So I asked her, "So you didn't drive them home after dinner then?" My mom responded by saying, "Oh no, we did, but that was all." Now, at this point, I left the conversation and I went home. A few days later, I picked up the conversation again with my mom. I said to her, "I don't think it's right that you took my car without asking." My mom looked at me and said, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe you ever even said that. If your dad had to hear how ungrateful you are, he would be very upset." I responded by saying, "I'm not saying I don't appreciate the car wash, but generally, if you want to take my stuff, I would appreciate it if you asked me first." My mom then responded by saying, "Listen, when you were younger, you took my car too, do you remember? Why are we even having this conversation?" But I went back at her and I said, "Because it's not right to take someone else's stuff without asking." Now, at this point, my mom got very defensive. She said to me, "You know, it sounds like you're asking for petrol or something like that, and I'm sorry, but we don't do that in this family. We treat others with kindness." I said to her that I'm not asking for petrol, I'm just saying that they should not take my things without asking. My mom then gives me a bit of an attitude. She turns to my partner, laughs and says, "Okay then." Now, honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for finding this completely inappropriate? My opinion is that I'm being gaslit and I'm being lied to, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. You are not being unreasonable at all, in my opinion. You asked your parents a very simple thing. Don't take my car around without asking me first. And you know what? Sure, I'm convinced that they probably would have taken care of it and that nothing would have gone wrong, and they really did try to make it look nice and all that, but that honestly is completely beyond the point. It doesn't matter how much they tidied up that car or how well they washed it or anything else like that. It seems like your parents are missing the point that you set a very clear boundary and you basically said, "Hey, don't take my car out," with your mom basically trying to excuse it as if them cleaning it and washing the car is somehow going to make up for them violating your boundaries. It really seems like they're talking around the issue instead of landing directly on what they did. And you know what? A car is very expensive. What if they got in an accident and your car got totaled? Suddenly, you can't go to work and your parents are the reason that happened. I would be furious if that happened to me and I couldn't get my stuff done all because my parents ignored my demands. So honestly, the next time you go out of town or do anything else, I honestly honestly would not leave your house keys or your car keys with your parents. Because if they're willing to go and take your car wherever they want without your permission, then in my opinion, they would absolutely try it again. Am I the jerk for using ChatGPT to tell my extended family about my wife's pregnancy? Because right now, the majority of them have found out about what I did. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've gotten myself into a bit of a ridiculous situation here, and I need some outside perspective. So I have a very complicated relationship with my family, especially on my father's side. My parents got divorced when I was a teenager due to infidelity, and since then, I've really distanced myself from my father. I also don't appreciate how he and his family make a production out of every last thing. You didn't send a birthday card to the aunt that you haven't seen in years? Well, now the entire family is messaging you on Facebook, and they're going to be berating you. They also have a tendency to make comments about my mother, which I am very quick to shut down. Anyways, my wife and I found out that she was pregnant a few months ago. I am extremely excited to become a parent, but also have some major projects at work right now that have kept me busy and exhausted. I told my mom, dad, and my brother in person about all that's going on, but this is where I might be the jerk. Obviously, it was really important to me to give my wife the support that she needs during her pregnancy, especially because my own father didn't. Between that and work, accomplishing anything except taking care of my house and wife felt incredibly exhausting. I also knew if I didn't send a personal announcement to every last relative, I would never hear the end of it. And as a side note, my dad's family is huge. There are dozens of nosy aunts that I have to deal with. So I decided to go to ChatGPT. Basically, I asked the AI to create a text message for my aunts and cousins announcing that my wife is pregnant. And this is right when everything starts to go wrong. Apparently, I wasn't as sneaky as I thought because two of my aunts compared their messages and noticed that they were similar. This led one of them, who is a teacher, to run it through an AI detector. Well, the results were pretty damaging. And now everyone on my dad's side who's young enough to understand what I did is royally pissed off at me. I basically told anyone who asked that I knew they would be offended if they didn't receive a message, and that I didn't have time to message people I haven't seen in years individually just to thank them for their involvement in my life up to this point. My wife is more amused than anything since she knows about my history with my family and probably could care less if I didn't tell all of them. And my good friend told me that I shouldn't have messaged them at all. So honestly, am I the jerk for using an AI just to message my extended family? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this first and foremost. Your extended family is so weird. Like, not only are they super reactive to everything that anybody does, and it almost seems like they're searching for something to be upset about, but they also felt the need to not only dissect exactly what you text to everybody in the family, but they also had the genuine thought to run your message through an AI detector. Like, maybe it's just me, but that is literally insane behavior. Like, who in their right mind would be like, wow, this message looks weird. Let's check and see if a computer wrote it. It's like, what is wrong with these people? They are so strange to me. So to answer your question, of course you didn't do anything wrong. These people are freaks. They're not normal. They are literally scratching and searching for drama, all in a situation where they should be congratulating you. It's like they read this message of like, oh yeah, his wife's pregnant. But what about the message itself? Did he actually send it? Is it actually a computer that did it? Like, what is wrong with these people? Like, seriously. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. I think the fact that they got upset over this is seriously the most ridiculous thing on planet Earth. Because this literally just proves how toxic these people are. And hopefully in the future, you don't have to deal with them in this capacity ever again. Am I the jerk for taking one of my husband's cheeseburgers after he gave away nearly my entire lunch to all of our kids? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 3 sons. Last Saturday, he took them out to run errands while I stayed at home to do some housework. They went to McDonald's on the way home, and they brought food back for me. I told them to get me a 10-piece chicken nuggets meal and a medium fry, but apparently the boys were still hungry in the car after eating their meals and asked my husband if they could have some of my food. He told them they could have a couple of nuggets and a few fries, and his reasoning was that I rarely finish my whole order, which is true for the most part. I usually only eat 7 to 8 nuggets and then most of my fries. Well, they each took 2 nuggets and a few fries, which means that what was handed to me for lunch was 4 nuggets and about 1/4 of the container of fries. Now, my husband has this habit of buying himself 3 extra cheeseburgers, and it's those little thin ones when he goes to McDonald's, and he does this so that he can eat them for breakfast the next day. He puts them in the waffle iron to reheat them, and he swears that it's his favorite breakfast. Now, knowing that he had already eaten his full McDonald's McDonald's lunch and he still had those cheeseburgers, I asked him for one so I could have a full lunch, but he said no because he needs them for breakfast. Now, here's where I might be the jerk. I went ahead and took one and ate it anyways. I was hungry and annoyed that my food was eaten, and it didn't make sense to me that he would deny me a full lunch so that he could just have breakfast. He still has 2 cheeseburgers for breakfast. He could easily have an egg with all of that or something like that if it's not enough food. Well, he got mad that I ate his cheeseburger and doesn't think it's the same thing as him letting the kids eat my food because he didn't realize they took that much, so he didn't intend on upsetting me. Whereas I knew I was upsetting him when I took the cheeseburger. He thinks that I could have just eaten leftovers or something like that, but seriously, he could do that as well. And I think he should since he gave my food away. Now, he thinks that I'm a jerk because I took his food even after he said no, but I was not even given the opportunity to say no before he let the kids take all of my food. So in my opinion, it's not a fair comparison. So truly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your husband gave away your lunch to your children and then has the audacity to get upset when you take 1 cheeseburger out of 3? Like seriously, this guy is 100% in the wrong. This is called reaping what you sow because this guy literally gave away your lunch. And sure, it's just a McDonald's lunch, but the principle still stands in my opinion. Like if your kids were still hungry, why would you sacrifice your wife's meal instead of turning back around and getting something else for them? Or at least offering to like make something when you get home at your house? It's like the way this guy wanted to solve this problem was by sacrificing your enjoyment with your lunch. And that's honestly like super bizarre to me. That doesn't make any sense, especially when he tries to act offended when you took one of his cheeseburgers. Because in my opinion, I think the original poster is completely justified here. If he's gonna give away your food, then you have every right to take something from him. And it's not like you took that much, by the way. This guy very easily could still eat 2 of those cheeseburgers in the morning as well as an egg like you suggested. Like this is such a weird thing to suddenly be upset about and offended over, especially when this guy started this whole incident in the first place. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your husband is just salty that he got a taste of his own medicine. And in my opinion, if he didn't want to be upset about you taking one of his cheeseburgers, then he maybe should have ensured that you actually got your lunch instead of allowing his kids to basically eat it all. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.